Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on a Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump, you know what I'm saying?
Welcome, everyone, to episode 490 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. Steve Wellings, Andy Patterson join us today. You can check us out every Sunday at what would be 3 o'clock Eastern time in the United States. I believe, 8 o'clock Eastern in the UK, 7, somewhere around there.
8:05.
It's all very confusing. I get lost in the time changes. It gets even worse. And you can find us on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes.
Well, hang on, Matty.
What?
Hold your horses. Now, before everybody starts going in on me in the morning, I'm going to put the podcast up on SoundCloud tonight, as I always do, after we finish, and up on Spotify and all those places. But it was brought to my attention this afternoon by a friend of the pod, Holt, who is in the Patreon but doesn't actually watch any fights. He says, "Where's the podcast gone?" I'm looking on Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes, can't find it anywhere. I went and had a look for it, can't find it either. Some people say they can see it, some people can't. It usually comes up as boxing on its own. It won't even come up for me as Asylum, as NUTHOUSE or nothing. So whether they've took us off, whether there's an issue with the feed, I have no idea. So just in advance, there could be an issue with iTunes until I get it resolved. I don't know what's going on, but there you go, Matty.
It's a madhouse, Steve. It's a madhouse.
It is.
Something else I believe is a madhouse is the WBC's open scoring like they had last night in the very entertaining fight between Juan Francisco Estrada and RG Cortez. Estrada taking a unanimous decision over 12 rounds. And Steve, as those last 4 rounds rolled by, I was thinking it was going to be a split decision, given that 2 of the judges had it 77-74 for Estrada at the time, and one had it 77-74 for Cortez at the time. And I thought Cortez won 2 of the last 4 rounds, but lo and behold, all 3 judges scored the fight for Juan Francisco Estrada. 2 at 115, 112, 1 at 114, 113. Great fight, somewhat overshadowed by the bizarre scoring at WBC Open. I don't even know what to say, but good fight. Cortez, longer, lankier, the Berenstain-trained fighter, taking it to times to a fighter with a very Berenstain style. I thought it was a very interesting fight, Steve.
It was an interesting fight. It was a good fight between the 2 of them. Just to address the open scoring, I had the sound on quite low, even though the excellent Corey Erdman was doing the microphone and alongside Jesse Vargas. I thought those 2 were very good from what I heard, but I had the sound quite low, so I wasn't following along with the open scoring. Open scoring's a strange one. I kind of felt as if it had faded out of view. I know Cotto in the past had open scoring. I seem to remember back in the day, Jean-Marc Mormec was fighting. I think it was the rematch against O'Neal Bell. and the open scoring kicked into play, and Mormek was ahead after 8 rounds, and what had been an excellent fight up until that point, all of a sudden he realised that he was in such a position where he could coast for the last 4 rounds, and the whole air just went out the tyres of that fight whatsoever, because open scoring told Mormek he didn't have to go to war anymore. He was far enough ahead that he could just coast for the last few rounds. So open scoring, the point I'm trying to get to here, can be a bit of a nuisance. Last night, I agree with what you're saying. I think it was a bit dodgy, but I wasn't really listening at the time, so it didn't affect my enjoyment as much as it could have been. It was a great fight, what you said. It's a bit of a cliche, but this RG Cortez, not really familiar with his work, but he's a warrior. He came to fight. Even when he got knocked down, he could have said at that point, with some justification, that he'd given his all. It was around 8 or 9, I think he got knocked down. He could have bailed out, but he didn't. He came back. He went back for more. He's still there in the 12th round, still looking to knock out Juan Francisco Estrada. And even from the start, I looked at him, and I thought, he looks like a big guy here. Got a nice left jab to him, nice raking shot. He had an excellent 4th round. He was landing some ferocious right hands. Estrada was eating them all up. He was willing to trade. He was willing to exchange. Estrada, shout out to him as well. He wasn't afraid to shying away from the battle. Yeah, Josh Ford. I thought Cotto Trout I was thinking of. Maybe it is Canelo Trout was the open scoring.
It was Canelo Trout, yeah.
Was it Canelo Trout? Okay, I was getting mixed up there. I knew there was something going on. But as for Cortez, one thing I noticed as well, I'm surprised he didn't target the body more. He hurt Estrada at times, I believe. He definitely disorganized him at times. And I was expecting him then to go straight downstairs, as Mexicans do. But he kept throwing the big hooks and kept headhunting. And in the end, Estrada's greater experience, his name value, just started to tell. He was able to find the angles to land the heavy shots at all the right times. I don't think Estrada has long left, actually, Matty, just on a side tangent with these kind of fights. He always seems like a young guy to me because he's so small. But he's been around for quite a long time, fighting at a good level, fighting well. He's suffered some injuries. He's been out of the ring for a long time. He's in the final stretch, but it was a great fight.
You know, he's 32. I always feel like he's older than that, but he's only 32.
I know, but I think he's had a lot. He's a long 32 of a career, I think, by this point.
A lot of miles. Miles.
Yeah.
They announced after the fight that we would be seeing the trilogy fight between him and Chocolatito on December 3rd. But Andy, I hesitate, considering the layoff, the physical dimensions of the opponent, I hesitate to put much bearing on this performance and how I think the trilogy fight with Chocolatito will go. Cortez differently built than Gonzalez. He puts his punches together, but from a totally different distance. Your thoughts?
Yeah, what's before the Gonzalez talk, obviously. I mean, I thought Cortez was better than advertised, to be fair. I really thought it was a fight of 2 halves, really. I thought Cortez, first 5 rounds at least, he was definitely, for me at least, I thought he was in the lead. And then, obviously, with there was good action round 5, I think it was, good exchanges in round 3 as well. Loads of right hands. I remember it was at round 4, Estrada get caught with numerous right hands, and during those first 4 rounds at least, I'm looking at that and thinking to myself, look how easy Cortez is actually catching Estrada. And I'm thinking, if that's prime Gonzalez there, you're thinking, oh, there's a wee bit more damage going to get done here. But the turning point is obviously round 7. The left hook to the body. Cortez is obviously he's no disgrace. He's turning up the heat. Estrada by this point, really, as Steve mentioned, the experience really kind of showing through toward the end. Probably the name value. And then, obviously, as I said, I think about round 8, round 9, I thought it was kind of Estrada was just kind of like probably just starting to kind of take over the fight, more aggressive. He seemed to kind of like switch on for around about that. From the knockdown at least, he kind of like sensed that he probably needed to get going, because even by his own standards, I think he was kind of like taken aback somewhat as to how good this Cortez actually was, and probably could have come a cropper there last night. If he just. Well, and then again, obviously it's a hometown fight for him, I suppose. But he really kind of ran the risk there last night. Obviously, titles are on the line. It was a non-title fight. The other thing as well is he's went through a training camp for this. He took punishment that he probably didn't really need to take. He's bleeding from the nose, swelling across the top of the left eye, possible maybe a slight cut, for example. So damage taking that, and you're talking like fighting December 3rd, 3 months away. Is it just like one step too far? As Steve mentioned, he's had numerous injuries. He's had a wee bit of kind of layoff here and there. Gonzalez isn't obviously prime at this point as well, but to me, I had Gonzalez winning that rematch 116-112, and I'll be backing him to win the third fight as well. So, and I'm basing it off those 6 rounds. If Gonzalez has got one more big push in him, I think he'll take the victory in this fight. But again, as I say, as Estrada, it was like a kind of fight of two halves for me. He seemed to kind of start slow, get stunned a wee bit as well as to how good Cortez was and how aggressive he was really with the jab, the right hand, and really kind of like stepping into Estrada a little bit. And as I say, just to kind of turn the tide a little bit in the seventh. I thought maybe 114, 113, possibly either side to either guy would have been fair. And I think the unanimous decision kind of like takes a shine off Cortez a little bit for me. So I thought he maybe deserved the decision, at least one of the cards, at least for me.
We'll get into the scoring here in a second. That's interesting what you said there. Our good friend Beat Bop Boop throwing 179 in there. Says Marshall or Shields, who you got to win the fight? Stay tuned. We'll be getting to that in our previews. Also, I'll be doing the episode of Chicks with Dig on Saturday morning, U.S. time, Saturday afternoon in the U.K. Before that fight this weekend. Maybe one of the guys will be ever so generous to come in there, so it's just not me talking to nothingness. But we'll see. As far as the scoring goes, it's interesting you said that, Andy. Interesting you said that. I disagreed with you. I thought it was a fight of quarters. And I thought Estrada won the first 3 rounds. I thought Cortez won the second set of 3 rounds. Then I thought that Estrada won 4 in a row with Cortez taking the last 2. That said, I thought that the first, the 6th, the 10th, and the 11th were swing rounds, 2 going either direction. So the fight I thought could have, I scored at 115-112, and I thought you could have gone as wide as 117-111, one Estrada, or down to 113-114 for Cortez. I don't know how you were giving Cortez the first few rounds. I thought maybe the first, but I thought that Estrada was basically fighting his fight in the next couple. And then in the 4th round, that's when the tide turned. There are a lot of ebbs and flows in this fight, which is why I liked it. But that knockdown, I think, pretty much sealed it any way you're going to look at it. So I don't know. Steve, did you score the fight directly, or were you just kind of passively feeling one way or the other?
Yeah, I don't score them anymore. I kind of felt Estrada was coming on at the end, and I had a feeling as if with the crowd, the judges, you kind of know what's going to happen in these fights, don't you? He's the house fighter. He's being built up by DAZN for the big fight with Chocolatito. Cortez was going to have massive rounds, hurt him consistently to get that decision. You felt the tide was turning, even in the close rounds. They're going to be going to Estrada in that case, which they did.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those fights I think is definitely worth scoring. It was an entertaining scrap. What I think the big mistake that Estrada makes, and he did it against Gonzalez at times too. And Andy, at times he's kind of searching for a shot and trying to get his opponent in there, and he leans over and he just kind of hangs out with his chin over front of his knee for 4
Estrada.
or 5, 6 seconds at a time. And I mean, Cortez found those moments and picked them off. That's where Cortez was landing his 3-4 punch combinations.
Yeah, about round 3 and round 4. I wrote down a wee note here that, I think you said he stepped into a right hand as well. It kind of backed him up. And as I say, Steve, as well, at the early half of that fight, I'm thinking the openings that he was leaving in Cortez, you think maybe like even Gonzalez at this stage in his career, he's still competent, he's still got the combinations, and he's a far better in-fighter than what Cortez is. Those uppercuts, those body shots that he can throw. Certainly, kind of round 4, I got here that he's landing numerous right hands to the head. And then obviously again there was more action round 4, round 5. Maybe I was just giving Cortez a wee bit kind of far too much credit, because obviously he was better than advertised and he's fighting. Well, basically he's going to go down as a Hall of Famer at some point, I would think, Estrada. So maybe it was that. But see, I wasn't scoring it as such, but I kind of got that sense that Estrada did win the fight. But I just felt that maybe it would have been good to see, maybe considering what you put into it. I'd like to have seen maybe Cortez just get a wee kind of nod on the card as well, because as you say, was it after the 8th round. I think it
One
was
of the
with
judges had
scorecards.
him up 77-74
Yeah,
and gave
three
Estrada
rounds.
all the last 4 rounds. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
it was almost like he's like, fuck, maybe I'm not seeing the same fight as these other guys. And he just tried to overcompensate coming back.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, because you said you gave Estrada one of the, was it 2 of the last 4 as well? I think you said.
Yeah. I thought that I thought the 10th was a little bit of a swing round, but I had Estrada win in 4 straight, 7 through 10, and I just think after he put him down with that body shot, at the very least in the 8th and the 9th, Cortez was still trying to get his legs back a little bit. He's a tough son of a bitch. I think he was a little more buggered than he let on.
Well, I think he was knackered, to be fair, mate, because if you look at his work compared to the early half of the fight, he seemed a little bit more ragged as that fight kind of wore on, a little bit. I thought his punches were a wee bit more loose. But certainly for me, round 8, round 9, that's when for Estrada, for me at least, turned the tide. But at least, Cortez remained game, and he was firing back. As Steve says, he could maybe have jacked it after that left hook to the body and the right uppercut that he took. So maybe with the defeat as well, his stock definitely doesn't drop. But I'd like to see him get another opportunity, which doing it at those weight classes, to be fair, I think he will get another chance of some sort, to be fair.
Definitely should get another opportunity. You can tell by a record like that. He's fought the hard nuts of the Sonora scene on those Mexican club shows, and he's come up for the hard way. Those guys, the record doesn't tell the tale. You know that as much as I do, Andy. Yeah. They're tough nuts, them fellas.
It's any given week, man. One of those guys will come up and show up a very good fighter because they're just tough sons of bitches.
We say it all the time, though. Some of these Mexican cards. Mexican names. Sorry, you just sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get. There could be bums, or you got guys like Lara, for example, who knocked out Josh Warrington. We had no knowledge about this guy. Okay, he's pretty limited, but he's got fucking power. He can ice anybody with it.
Lee Wood might be in trouble, man. When I saw that fight, I'm like, man, really? You're going to miss that Conlon rematch for that? Ooh,
possibly, mate. And then obviously Cortez put on a better than. But then again, is it just the one-off aspect of it? Is he just like raised his game because he's fighting Estrada, for example? Is he going to be, maybe if he's got to come down a few levels for his next fight before he gets another opportunity, is he going to look as good as that? We'll need to try and check in. But at the end of the day, he says, again, he's got a couple of losses on his record, a couple of draws. It doesn't matter, as Steve says, down in those neck of the woods, because, the sparring is absolutely brutal down there. Some of the club shows that you see are pretty tough fights. Now, these guys are coming from extreme poverty, and they're obviously fighting for a better life than that. So obviously they're going to get all they can get. But I was certainly surprised with me, to be fair. Certainly kind of like first 6 rounds, I thought he was really good. But then after the knockdown for me, at least, as I said, you say it was a fight of quarters for you. I thought it was a fight of 2 halves because he seemed to not so much tired, but I just thought that Estrada was putting more pressure on him. Fucking out the respect aspect of it as well, just going straight toward them and just basically putting that experience and that championship level mentality he's got basically to good use. It's something maybe Cortez maybe just lacked a wee bit. And also as well, it might just come down to conditioning and then the proper training camp as such as well. So who knows? But as I says, he kind of ran the risk of a wee bit of Estrada there last night, and as you says, at this age in that weight division, it's like dog years. He could be like 40, 50-year-old at that weight, and just at this point, at least, I think this fight in December, I think this will be the last of either one of these guys. To be fair, whoever loses, I think retires.
I agree.
You could be right. Matthew Butters hopping in there, which is Mateo Montequia for our Spanish-speaking listeners. Cortez comeback against Rungvisai. I think that's an interesting enough fight. But Steve, the one I was actually thinking of, if he's still in the game, I kind of think Quadras would be a good measuring stick to see if Cortez really does have some goods.
Yeah, definitely measure him up. Whether it's Rungvisai or Quadras, I'd take either of those fights. I think he's earned it as well. I noticed MB dropped in an interesting comment. He said, Cortez will win a world title, in my opinion. MB knows his stuff. He's not like the usual Spazzos in the chat. So that's quite high praise from him. If he thinks Cortez, maybe this was his big opportunity. He put it all on the line and he might never reach these heights again. But I like the look of him, and I think definitely against a Rungvisai, Quadras, he'd take it too. And why not? He's earned it after that. Definitely want to see him back again. As Andy says, the lower weights, you do get opportunities. I think Cortez has definitely earned at least one more opportunity after that.
Well, in this fight, and another one on the card, are just I watch these and I wonder how some of these people that call themselves boxing fans can't get into these lower weight fights. Because also on this DAZN card, which was pleasantly surprising, God, I hated his first name, Svente Nanchinga against Hector Flores for the 108-pound IBF title, with Nanchinga taking a split decision over 12 rounds, 116, 111, 114, 113 his way, 115, 112 card going for Flores. I think this fight could have gone either way, Steve. Nanchinga dropping Flores in the second round, proving to be the difference. But Flores came right back in the following rounds. I thought it might have been a fight where the best description was that Nanchinga landed the harder shots while Flores landed more. But if you have to tilt it one way, I'm actually going to go Flores because I thought he made Nanchinga fight his fight. The ring generalship battle definitely won by Flores.
I'm not sure who won this fight, but again, it was a good fight. It was all the fights on the card were really good. Gonna have to praise Eddie and DAZN as much as it loathes me to do so. Credit where it's due. This was a good one. It was a terrific fight. I'd never heard of either of them beforehand, apart from us having a look last week. Sivanathi Nanchinga. He boxed in like a really traditional South African style. The low left hand, right hand was always cocked to go. Upper body kind of perched forward, that classic South African style. I like that. Hector Flores, he was just a tough guy, badly cut on the forehead. He got dropped in the second round, I think it was. Nice little classy 1-2. Left jab, right hand came over the top, and away he went down. And I didn't realise this was the same Flores that beaten Jay Harris. It's hard to keep up with some of these guys sometimes. I know you said that Flores won the fight. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with the decision either. Nanchinga might have just shaded it at the right time. He had a lot of blood on his shorts, which turned them a little bit pink, which is completely irrelevant. But I like the fact that he had Colin.
It was Flores' blood.
It was Flores' blood. It was all over him, all over his shoulder and all over his back. But he did a good job of it. I say he had Colin Nathan in the corner. Nice staple of South African boxing. They mentioned on the call he'd been sparring with Muthalaney and Heki Budler in preparation for this, so they could take him into some dark places. And that certainly benefited him because he went into some dark places towards the end. Could have gone either way. Stick him in for a rematch. I thought it was an excellent fight. And I wouldn't mind seeing Nanchinga or Flores again.
I can't add much to this, Matty. Only seen the highlights of it, mate. But one thing I did pick up on it was the size of that South African. By the way, I was like, I had to go and double check BoxRec to see what the weight division was for this fight because I couldn't believe it was a light flyweight. He looked fucking massive.
And I thought they had him listed at 4'9". Well, I think one of these fighters we touched on last week.
He's 5'5" according to BoxRec.
So yeah, someone was listed wrong before the fight happened because there was no 4'9" fighter in that ring.
Do you know how I measure them? Because see, I've watched loads of wee guys early years and that. Obviously, there's been a lot of Scottish guys who've fought on the kind of like lower weight classes and that. As the wee guys barely reach the fucking top rope in terms of height. This guy seemed to fucking be at least up to shoulder height with the fucking top rope. I'm saying to myself, the fucking guy was massive. So I need to get a copy of this fight without doubt. I wasn't downloading an 11 gigabyte file for it the day to be fair with, and I've been kind of laid up on that as well. So I will definitely need to catch this one because a lot of guys were sending me messages and that saying, like, you need to get this watched. It's a fucking cracking fight. So I can add to it, mate. I just thought maybe you guys maybe picked up on the size of the guy. I thought he was absolutely massive for that weight division.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised when they were in there because I swear I remember seeing one of them was 4'9", and no one was that short. Great battle. I heard that Nanchinga was taken to the hospital for observation after the fight. Hopefully, he is all well and good. That was a long battle, and Steve, the one thing that I think, because there's some people that I saw saying, "Oh, it's a fight of the year candidate." I disagree. I think it was a very, very good fight, but I think that body work that Flores was landing, probably like 4th, 5th round, and the amount of volume he was throwing during that time, it took the tank out of both of them, and they weren't landing the hardest shots down the stretch.
Yeah, it could be fighter of the year. Thing is with me and fighter of the year, I can't even remember what fights were this year, last year, or 10 years ago.
It's Lee Wood, Mick Conlon at this point, man. I mean,
yeah.
ebbs and flows, the ending.
Exactly. Well, you've summed it up perfectly. Exactly. I always go back to AJ Klitschko. That is the kind of fights I love for Fight of the Year. Ebbs and flows, people going down, swings in momentum. You think it's going one way, then it's going the other. You're emotionally invested in the fight. I wasn't really emotionally invested in Flores and Nanchinga. No offense to the boys, they put it all out there, but I don't think the criteria was necessarily there as you've outlined.
Yeah, it was just a damn good fight. And I'll tell you what, if they wanted to run that one back, I'd tune in for that one again. And
Yeah, they
hopefully
might
they
as well
pay him
do.
better.
There wouldn't be big money involved, would there? I'd say get him in again, them two.
Yeah. Give them a little bit more. They earned it.
Give them less, man. They need to stay hungry.
No, Steve, we're not paying these fighters by the pound, Mike. But man, that was a good one. Also, a good fight, although it was mostly one-way traffic. Rocky Hernandez taking out Jorge Mata in a 130-pound battle in the 5th round, dropping him hard with a left hook in that round. The referee seeing enough with the reactions of Mata following that. Hernandez, really good performance in there. Heck of a good puncher. Patient, but puts them together. Steve, as far as this one goes, a good performance. I think, considering that Gutierrez lost his title, he's going to be kind of floating around. I'd like to see Hernandez get a chance to avenge that. First round knockouts don't always tell the story. Sometimes you just get caught.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting back in there. Gutierrez is now been relieved of his title. Hernandez is definitely a puncher, as you said. I was looking at Mata, and they're calling him Mata, and I was thinking, wasn't he supposed to be fighting Cuellar? But I was being done over by these Mexicans with about 50 names. I was thinking, I'm sure Matty said last week he was fighting Cuellar, but this is in fact Jorge Mata Cuellar. So it was the same guy. It wasn't a late replacement. Hernandez, though, he's all action. I like the look of him. Never seen him before. Throws every hook, every uppercut to the head, to the body. Just powerful with mean intent. If it had gone to 12, this was another 10, not ESPN this time, though, then you never know where his gas tank's going to hold up. But the only time he lost, as you said, he was caught cold early on. So have to assume he can maintain that. But Cuellar, to his credit, tried to pitch back, but he just wasn't the puncher. Badly outgunned. The corner wasn't too pleased with the stoppage, as you alluded to, but the fight was only going one way, and Hernandez got the knockout. And how did we get on in the prediction league with this? Because I think this slipped in, didn't it?
Well, Steve, everybody picked the correct fighter. You, me, and Andy actually had a perfect week for anyone who chose to bet our direction. But Rob picked incorrectly on the outcomes.
I must be getting near to the top, but I must be making a comeback.
No, because you had the same amount of points as Steve, so that means you gain no ground.
What's the spread then?
Currently, right now, I'll start in last and go to first. Pathetic me, 67 points. Andy, 76 points. Rob, 80 points. And Steve, you got a little bit of extra breathing room now at 83 points.
Yeah. Do I know boxing? Yes, I do.
Now, it is going to be a 3-pick week because there's just a little bit going on, and it's hard to kind of break away from it. And we'll get to that obviously later on. But just be thinking both women's fights on Saturday, as well as Ruiz versus Ortiz. We're going to be picking on those 3 fights today. So
hang on, you haven't mentioned the women's fight from the DAZN card. What happened there, Matty? Slipping?
I was just going to get to that one. I was just going to get to that one with Erica Cruz Hernandez taking a strong decision over Yelena Mrjenovic, repeating her win from last year when she lifted that title off from Mrjenovic, who has been floating around with titles for give or take the last decade. Cruz Hernandez, this is a featherweight fight. They mentioned, if that Katie Taylor fight doesn't get done and get done soon, Serrano is out again, I think in October on a British card. I'm trying to remember which one. But they're talking about this being a unification because Serrano still holds those belts at 126 pounds. Cruz is a good fighter. She throws a really good right hook. So it'd be a battle of 2 southpaws. Her left hand's pretty all right, too. She comes forward. I actually think if that fight it happens instead of a rematch with Katie Taylor, it has fireworks written all over it. Not a bad second place. Although I think the winner of the fight between Michaela Mayer and Alicia Baumgardner is even more interesting from my perspective, but that's a promotional thing. Steve, did you catch this fight?
I did, but I can't, as always, add this kind of context that you did, so I can only look at them both at face value. Mladenovic had about 10 losses on her record. Cruz, I thought, was quite sloppy. She was throwing a lot of overhand winging shoulder shots. Not that I want to shit on them necessarily. It wasn't the greatest spectacle, but it was a rematch, and I had a look into the first fight, which got ended on, I think it was a technical decision, some kind of cut after about 7 rounds. But at that point, Cruz had won all 7 of the rounds, or all 8, or whatever it was. So I'm not really sure whether the rematch was called for. I know Mladenovic had a lot of wins early on in Canada, but she's kind of been slipping lately. So I don't have the context, don't have the background, but I thought Cruz looked really sloppy. And if they're going to put her in against somebody decent who can time her and punch in between her big swings, she'll be in trouble, I think.
Very well could be. I think a fight with Serrano was fun. Like I said, if we don't get Taylor, sign me up for that one. But, man, I want that rematch. I mean, that's, like I said, Lee Wood against Mick Conlon, fight of the year at this point in time. But, I mean, I have a hard time not putting the Taylor Serrano fight at least in the top 3, maybe top 5 if you want to be harsh on it. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that one.
Here, Matty, what time's that Ruiz fight start tonight, mate? Somebody in the chat says 9 p.m. UK time. I can't see it being that early.
So there's a lot of different stuff going on that card, and they have it kind of split up from the pay-per-view to some stuff that's on like regular Fox or something like that. And I think for me, the earliest I'll be able to start watching it is going to be in about 3.5 hours for whatever that gives you, I believe.
Definitely been my caught by then, mate.
Yeah. Poor Andy is suffering through this one. You got to give him a round of applause. He's tough. The COVID test is negative. Optimistically, the HIV test will be the same. We're pulling for you, Andy, always and forever.
Yeah, mate. So something saying, so any females listening to my husky voice, you might end up like a digestive biscuit dipped in a cup of tea for too long, you know.
Phlegm on the ears.
Sorry.
Don't make yourself laugh, Andy.
Yeah, it didn't make me laugh.
I might want to avoid the bell use, buddy. It could be painful. But anyways, the card I was not able to catch, could not find U.S. television for it. And honestly, Steve, it wasn't interesting enough for me to care. Liam Smith taking a 4-round TKO over his opponent in what sounded like was a total shitfest at the end. If you could take us through that card, I am oblivious.
Yeah, being oblivious is probably the best place to be with this card. I'll go through the main event first of all. Now, I was coming back and forward because my son had gone to the cinema, so I was having to collect him and that. So I was watching bits and pieces. I got to the end of Pitter's Aziz, and then I came back just as, Azim. I'd missed Azim. I got back just in time for the last couple of rounds of Natasha Jonas and Bergelt or Burschelt, whoever she was fighting. But as for the main event, Hassan Marquinhos, now this was a strange one here. I said last week, I thought Marquinhos was going to be competitive for the first few rounds. And then once Liam Smith started drilling the body, he'd break him down gradually, get a stoppage. It'd all be nice and clean. Marquinhos would go out on his shield. I wasn't expecting Marquinhos to just kind of melt under what looked to me like limited pressure. We had an incident. It was around 2nd or 3rd round where Marquinhos, suddenly his ankle appeared to give way. Now, I was concerned at that point. I thought, here we go. Here's the beginning of the end. He's putting the building blocks in for a quit or a way out. When someone starts feeling the shoulder or shaking the hand and there's a bit of a back and forth with the referee, they're putting the building blocks in place, aren't they, then, to get out later on. But it got even stranger than that. The built-in excuse was there. The strange thing was, see, Hassan, whenever he stepped forward, he threw shots. He had a really powerful double jab. He threw shots in bunches, 5 or 6 at a time with real authority. And I thought to myself, this guy has the potential to be a real handful here. But he was just pissing around. He was looking down at the ankle again. I saw people criticising the stoppage at the end. But these British referees, they're notoriously impatient. Marquinhos was making a rod for his own back. He was causing a fuss. He was giving out distress signals. Victor Loughlin's impatient. British referees were impatient. I think a count at the end would have made things a little bit cleaner if Loughlin had stepped back, said, right, you're on the floor, I'm going to count you, let's see what's going on. But he didn't, he waved it off straight away. But whenever you're constantly dropping to the floor for no reason, you're not really giving an excuse. No one really knows what's going on at home. The commentators, the referee, no one's really sure what's happening. You're always running the risk of a referee saying, right, fuck this, I've had enough. I'm going to call this fight off. Something wasn't right about the whole thing for me. I know Johnny Nelson had his say at the end. Before the fight, people were talking on Twitter that Marquinhos was going to pull out. He'd already pulled out, but he came in here, as Andy said last week, unbeaten in like 5 years a string of knockouts, albeit against lower level opposition. One against Sam Eggington when he blitzed him in 2 rounds. He gave that whole 5 years up, that whole run, so easily, so bizarrely, and he didn't do anything, just to close, Matty, to dispel my newfound theory. African fighters, they're no longer teak tough. That's going to have to be withdrawn now. The prison canteen, it's got to be shut down with immediate effect. That was the main event. Yeah.
Like I said about the Ghanaian fighters, I mean, maybe it's continent-wide. These new age African fighters, Steve, they're born with a wooden spoon in their mouth. They don't know the old ways.
Born with a wooden spoon in their mouth. But yeah, Marquinhos, like I said, the frustrating thing was whenever he stepped forward, put his shots together, he really looked like a puncher. He looked like someone who could do some damage. And he was game at the end of one of the rounds. He hit Liam Smith. Smith was angry. I thought we could be in line for a real tear-up. And then the whole ankle nonsense started. I don't know what happened there. On the undercard, as I said, I missed Azim. I saw the end of Jonas. Wasn't really that bothered about that. Aziz against Pitters was a nice scrap. I thought Aziz was a worthy winner. I know that they were comparing Aziz to Marvin Hagler during the week, and that was a bit of a joke. But with the shorts and the way he fights, he does have that kind of old school Sugar Ray Seals, Eugene Cyclone Hart kind of look about him. I'm not sure how far he's going to go. Maybe European title level might be his ceiling, but it's going to be fun to find out. And as for Fraser Clark's opponent, my God, they always say, oh, you got to respect everybody who got in the ring. There's no excuses for that last night. He looked like a super middleweight. Clark was even scathing of himself afterwards. He just knocked him about. Overall, it wasn't the best boxer show. They're going to have to do better than this. But as I said, it was a shame about the main event. It could have been so much better, but I don't know what Marquinhos was playing at.
Well, damn. Doesn't sound like there was much going on at all there. That's a shame.
See that opponent that Fraser Clark fought? I thought he was a fucking middleweight when that fight started. The size difference in that fight was absolutely was incredible. Fucking who sanctioned that fight? Okay, the referee did the right thing and stopped the fight when it looked like the guy couldn't even handle himself. But I don't know what you call him. Ben Shalom was raging to pay for it. Just on the Hassan Marquinhos fight as well. I mean, he was late coming into the country. We were talking about earlier on in the week, the fight was off, it wasn't happening, and then arrival was it Thursday or Friday, day of the weigh-in possibly. And Steve says, that 5 years of work, I noticed he's not ranked or anything like that, and he's claimed that he's been ducked and all this type of shite, and then he fucking pulls that off. Guys are saying in the chat, maybe get him investigated for betting fraud. Johnny Nelson wasn't holding back either, saying he took a dive. I wouldn't disagree with that, to be fair. I think even his corner were kind of like motioning to say that he slipped on some water in the corner or something like that, possibly. Not agreeing with that either, to be fair. This for Pitters against Aziz, just to kind of lay reference to that. I don't know, Steve, was it you who was making the kind of comparisons?
Which one?
With Dan Aziz.
Oh, I was laying reference to the fact that they were comparing him, with the shorts and everything to Hagler during the week.
Aye, I kind of got that impression as well. Kind of like how he kind of stands with his feet and probably how he jabs. But I thought Aziz was definitely a worthy winner in that fight. Kept it tight, kept it compact, rolled low, spring up underneath with good shots. More than held his own on the inside, and I thought maybe Pitters didn't use his length to good advantage. He should double, triple that jab, get the right hand going behind it, but. To be fair, he wasn't landing many consistent 1-2s. He didn't really press as much, or if he did press, he wasn't sustaining any action. So I think compared to Aziz, he just looked more schooled, more seasoned, and definitely a clear winner. So I wonder if they might try and get that fight with Ben Whittaker kind of made sometime soon. But I kind of mind, is Whittaker not going to fight so many fights before he gets eligible for the British title, or did I just make that up?
Well, you always have to have is it scheduled a 10 or an 8 or something, don't you, before you're able to fight? Yeah, I'd say he's a long way off that at the moment. I don't know what they're going to do with him or fast track him, but no, I'd say not yet.
Well, there you go. Andy, did you happen to catch the minimum weight title fight from early in the week?
Is that the one in Thailand, mate?
Yeah, Patabrisi fight.
Nah, mate, I've been fucking so busy with work that during the week. I actually forgot about it. Actually, to be fair, it wasn't until I seen the results Friday. I was going through the results Friday night, and I noticed it, but I could not be arsed, mate, going to try and find it. To be fair,
whatever Andy blew out of his nostrils earlier, Matty weighed more than them flyweights.
They're gonna kill Andy. Be careful.
I haven't heard this much heavy breathing since the guru left the pod.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I'm mouth breathing here, Christ's sake.
If you kill Andy, who's going to save the Ukrainians, Steve? So, we got some questions in the queue there, I'm hoping.
Yes, I believe we do.
Beautiful. All right. Let's see what we got here. Man, I might have missed them. Oh, there we go. All right. Irvin says, hello, Nuthouse. Thank you for discussing my scenario last week regarding Julio Cesar Chavez's connection with Joe Frazier. I have a question for the panel. What 3 fights would you wish you had been ringside for? My 3 fights would be Ali versus Frazier, March 8th, 1971. That would be the first fight, I think. Dempsey versus Carpentier. Sugar Ray Robinson versus Turpin 2. Interesting. And he says, P.S. Good evening, Edward. Thank you very much, Irvin. What a polite gentleman, Steve. What a polite gentleman
Shout
Irvin
out to
is.
Irvin. Mm-hmm.
Yes, manners are not dead, apparently. Fantastic. He's got some really good questions right there. I think, God, when Tyson obliterated Spinks, I think that would have been something to be there. I'll throw that one out to start. Andy, what about you?
Well, I agree with the first one, to be fair. I sanction that as one of the greatest fights of all times. Ali against Frazier for Manila. No, that's the first fight, 71, isn't it?
Yep.
Aye, that's the first fight. I'll go for a third fight, 75, I think it was.
Oh, you would have ended up like the Water Buffalo and Apocalypse Now. I wouldn't have done that.
Fucking great fight though, mate. Savagery at its best. Now, obviously, it'll be a toss-up between the first fight between Duran and Leonard, or the fight between Duran and what the fuck's his name? Davey Moore at MSG. The night that I think it was Duran's birthday, 34th birthday, and they serenaded him after the fight, after knocking him out with Duran and happy birthday and that type of thing. That would have been a great night. And probably Foreman beating Moore, to be fair, actually, because that was just history. A guy coming back, chasing the title. I think he had like 2 chances before that fight, failed them both. I think it was Holyfield and maybe Tommy Morrison, I think it was.
The HBO legendary nights about that is fantastic, man. Like, they show Foreman out there in the winter, just like all bundled up, just chopping wood. He's like, the only way I can beat this guy is to knock his ass out. And his forearms, dude, my fucking God.
You've got like Lampley on comms just going, it happened. And you've got Gil Clancy, who was absolutely tremendous on co-comms, just going like that. You could actually hear the disbelief in his voices. I don't believe it. That's all he said. It was just one of those magical moments that guy just like, because Moore obviously had his problems and that type of thing as well outside, and it was a mentality issue. But Foreman was like class as a joke in that comeback fight, mate. I mean, he had like something like 25 fights on his comeback, fighting in Alaska and Nebraska and all these fucking shitholes. Loses widely to 2 champions, and they're like, look, it's time to retire, George. The wife's not going to let me keep fighting. He's getting badly marked up, and he's a granddad by this point. Fuck me, man. He's also getting schooled in the fight. He's well behind on points, I believe, and then he kind of shadows the jab in front of Moore's eyes, and he just drops that straight right hand right behind it and just fucking ices him, mate. It was just one of those moments, and that you just, to end it like that as well, because he needed the knockout, I think, and as I say, it's a big, massive moment of disbelief. Make it a top 5, mate. I'd love to have been in there that night. The fucking fan man dropped into the Holyfield against Bo. That'd have been absolute mayhem, chaos, because I think everybody in the ringside, even George Foreman got involved that night. You hear him in comms, don't do it, son, don't do it.
That was Galota.
Was it Galota? Sorry,
yeah,
it was Galota.
Yeah.
They landed in a section, I think, where some of Riddick Bowe's people were sitting, and they just started beat the
shit out of him. That's right.
Aye. I remember Jim Lampley was it Galota fight when he says his daughter was somewhere in the crowd, had to go and try and find her.
Yep.
He was thanking Foreman for actually like protecting him and Larry Merchant for like some of the hooligans.
The police had to come off the streets in New York that night to sort that out. They just couldn't get it under control, could they?
Yeah, it's true. And obviously you think about Ali Norton 3 in New York, Matty, back in the 70s when I think the police department in New York were on strike that time. So there was no security whatsoever that night in Yankee Stadium. So you could imagine any shit had fucking kicked off. Nothing was going to happen.
Can you just? It's just. I mean, I just can't imagine being in there for some of these fights. I'm going to throw one more in there.
Round 15, Holmes Norton. Holy shit!
Oh, that's good. And I had a friend of mine watch this fight the other day. It's funny. It's a buddy of mine. He just got into boxing recently in a few years, and so he hasn't seen a lot of Mayweather fights and stuff like that. Like the only thing he knows of Mayweather is his just totally dominating people. But I had him go back and watch the Ricky Hatton fight. And number one of the best atmospheres that I think there ever has been at a fight. As far, I mean, you could hear it. I mean, the chanting, the singing, it was incredible. Number two, he watched that fight and he hates Joe Cortez. I think that's very fair. Number three, and this is always my favorite fucking fact, is you sons of bitches drank the MGM out of alcohol. Like, how the fuck does that happen? Like, so I would have wanted that to be there. That would have been something else, I think.
There was something like, I don't want to, overstate the numbers, but there was something like 50,000 over there for that fight.
No, it wasn't that many, but there were more British people that showed up for the fight than there were tickets at the MGM for the fight.
The MGM only holds something, was it 15, 20,000?
You can get 16 in there, I think, is like the max. And it was, the atmosphere there was just incredible. They had the full band, they were singing. Even after he got knocked out, they were singing. That was a crazy one. I would have liked to have been there for that one, regardless of the outcome.
Des in the chat was mentioning Ben McClellan there, which is actually quite fair because that was a bear pit. I remember Frank Bruno with it. I forget what colour suit he had on, but it was wild. Then it was like fucking bright red or whatever it was. And he's fucking punching the fucking canvas ringside. And that, go on, Nigel, go on. It was just absolute mayhem there that night, man. Every time fucking Ben roared back at McClellan after being hurt, it was absolutely savage, man. Yeah. You can that fight's never been shown on TV since. That's 1995, 96, I think it was.
Yeah, nearly 30 years ago.
Jesus.
Steve, go ahead, throw a few in there.
Yeah, a few I was going to throw in. Andy touched upon the Briddick Bowe fights. I don't know whether I'd have the bottle for some of them, but I tell you what, it must have been class to be the atmosphere, but then the underlying threat of violence at these fights. I don't think I'd have the stomach to go to the Gallotta fight because that was just mayhem. And like I said, the police had to come in. They just could not control that. Maybe the fan man. When the fan man came in the Holyfield fight, maybe the Elijah Tillery fight when they started kicking each other and Tillery ended up over the side of the ropes. But there was always something kicked off in a Bowe fight, but a rough crowd he brought along. So I don't know whether I'd have the stomach for that or not. Things like Corrales Castillo being there for a piece of history. I was talking to Ben Faruqi the other day, actually, and discussing De La Hoya Hopkins, a fight that I went to back in 2003, which I mentioned on the pod, which actually was a piece of history unbeknownst to me. That was the first time an undisputed champion in the four-belt era had been crowned. I didn't realise I was at that piece of history. So to be at those type of fights, I think it's nice to look back on when you realise that you were there. So Corrales Castillo or Ward Gatti, those kind of stereotypical ones. Willard Dempsey, have a look around the ring after, see if there was a bolt line on there. You could get some kind of historical closure on whether actually what happened is what they said. But going back in time, 15 years ago, one of my favourite fights of all time, the first fight between Jermaine Taylor and Kelly Pavlik, I think that would have been a quality atmosphere. Two fighters sort of in and around their peak. I know Taylor was kind of deteriorated fast, but that was one of the great fights for me. Taylor Pavlik, 2007. I wouldn't have minded being ringside for that too, but yeah, so many.
Chavez against Taylor. Remember Taylor? That
Or Chavez when he fought the one with the 130,000 people.
Greg Haugen.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day Massacre, man.
Can you imagine meeting some of the Jack Johnson fights back in the day, though? I mean, imagine the racism, the hatred he would get. He was just smiling at it all and that, and just fucking laying the beating on the white man. He was a Stanley Ketchel. He was clowning around with him, knocked Johnson down, and then Johnson came back, fucking first punch, knocked fucking 4 of his teeth out, and actually dented 2 of them in his knuckles, apparently.
Sad Ken mentioned there James Scott against Dwight Braxton. I believe, Andy, that's one we've covered before.
One in the prison.
That was the one in the prison in the Rahway State Penitentiary, wasn't it? I think
James Scott was the prisoner. I think Muhammad Qawi had just no longer been released. I think
that's why Dwight Braxton, who later became Dwight Muhammad Qawi, Scott was doing so well that they were afraid it was going to be a bad luck that he got a world title fight. So they stopped the prison fights and just removed him from the rankings, just like that.
Yeah,
even though he was winning fights.
He was top 15 at one point. Was he not ranked top 10? Top 15?
They thought it would look. HBO and everything went into the prison to cover the fight, and then WBA, I think, decided it'd be a bad luck if a prisoner got a world title shot, so they just fucked him off.
I think who was the champ that time? Was it Michael Spinks? Can you imagine if it was Michael Spinks that time? Say, oh, listen, you've got a mandatory day challenger coming up next. Who's that? James Scott. Fuck that.
You're gonna have to go in there. Exactly. You had Sard, you had Spinks, you had Marvin Johnson, you had Eddie Gregory, who became Mustafa Muhammad. A good era, yeah.
Yeah, Ken, I I don't know if you actually would like to be at one of those fights because what it would take to get there and what would happen to you while you're there. No, I don't know, man. Some tickets aren't worth the price of admission.
That'll be some anal cavity search, that one, eh?
Yeah. They'll search you deep. But another fight I think would have been cool to been at would have been Bernard Hopkins against Felix Trinidad at Madison Square Garden.
Look at that machine,
just postponed after a couple weeks after 9/11.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was supposed to be that weekend. It was supposed to be what's that? The 17th.
It was 2 or 3 days after what happened. I think it was the 9/11. Was it no
on a Monday? 9/11 was on Monday.
Dave
so
Lee
it
was meant to
supposed
go
be
to
on
that
the
fight,
17th.
Yeah, it got moved 2 or 3 weeks after, didn't it? In the end, I think.
Yeah.
Because Hopkins had stoked everything up, hadn't he, by throwing the Puerto Rican flag and doing the American chanting USA.
Did he not do that doing in Puerto Rico? He had to fucking run it.
That's why he had to run for his life. Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's the size of the crowd, the atmosphere, the fight itself, the meaning of it. The third fight between Vasquez and Marquez, I would have loved to have been there. StubHub Center. God, that was a killer fight. They should have never had a fourth one of those.
State Eze Vasquez's eyes by that point, mate. It was the scar tissue was just horrendous. I mean, that was one of the most grotesque eye injuries I've ever seen.
He looked like
in that fourth fight. Do you end up losing his eye as well as a result of those fights?
I don't know.
I'm sure Vasquez did actually. I didn't go and check that. I remember if you Google his Izzy Vasquez cut fourth fight Rafael Marquez, mate, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. Literally see, maybe even just probably see the lower part of his fucking skull where his kind of eyes kind of sits in the socket a bit. It was fucking horrific.
Just Matty as well, touching back on James Scott briefly, Sad Ken mentioned there. So Scott went into prison, and from 78 until 81, he had 3 years of fights. Every fight was in Rahway State Prison. During that time, he beat Eddie Mustafa Mohammed in prison. He beat Richie Cates, who was no mug. He beat Bunny Johnson, Yaki Lopez, Jerry Martin, and Dwight Mohammed Carway. And he was on the verge of a title shot before they pulled the plug. That was
every single one of those names are top 10 light heavyweights back in that time, by the way. So that's a hell of a fucking resume, to be fair.
Was that movie, what was it called? Undisputed with, I think it was Wesley Snipes and Ving Rhames based on that?
I think so, mate. Because
like
Ving
loosely.
But Ving Rhames kind of played that kind of Mike Tyson character, did they know? Because he was in prison for, was it for rape or whatever it was?
Yeah, and he was actually in prison, and then the champion fighter got in prison, and then he just fought a guy from the prison who I think beat the shit out of him, if I remember the movie. I don't know. That's been a long time. Not one of my favorite boxing movies. Play It to the Bone, great boxing movie. Great White Hype, great boxing movie. You guys got any favorites?
There's not very many good boxing films, but I like Play It to the Bone. It's got that kind of comedy aspect to it.
There's actually, at one point in time, I don't know if it's changed, there were more, of all the sports, there were more movies based on boxing than any other sport.
I enjoyed the one with your woman in and Clint Eastwood. What was that one?
$1 Million Baby. Great movie.
I thought that was pretty good. I've never been into boxing movies for some reason.
Huh.
Strange.
Yeah. Are you much of a fan of cinema in general, Steve, or do you find yourself?
No, not really. I haven't been to the cinema for years. No.
See the one, was it the one with Mickey Wahlberg, the fighter, based on Mickey Ward? I thought that was shit because, like, obviously us as boxing fans are knowledgeable. Well, we think we're knowledgeable boxing fans. You see Mark Wahlberg standing there looking like a fucking middleweight, right? But actually look like massive fucking traps and fucking biceps and that. And you got Mickey Ward, who's like a skinny fucking, was it a light welterweight? I think it was a fight. Was that just like things like that, for example? And the film obviously doesn't even focus on like his three main battles. Really, kind of focus on that. Was it the fight in was it Shane Erie? I think it was. It was kind of more based on. I think they kind of maybe stuck on Gatti, to be fair, but it was just, again, I think it even won a couple of awards as well. So I wasn't a big fan of that movie, to be fair.
I'm trying to decide if I want to watch the new series about Mike Tyson on Hulu. It's just called Mike.
No, it looks like dog shit. It looks like dog shit.
And Mike Tyson hates it, but I'll tell you the one thing about it, Rob, I got to tell the people at Hulu, as far as casting goes, not all black people look alike. That guy does not look like Mike Tyson. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I think from what I heard, it's not the Scorsese one with Jamie Foxx that we were all expecting and excited about. The gritty Tyson biopic that fucking somehow got shelved, and Hulu have made a TV series based on his stand-up comedy routine or his one-man play that he did. So Tyson is snapping over it or whatever. There was a shitty Tyson TV movie made years ago. I don't know if anyone ever saw that.
It
was
sucked.
Yeah, it did suck, but it had one good line where Robin Givens storms out in anger and Don King goes, "You called her a cunt, didn't you?" Something like that. I can't remember, paraphrasing, but
that guy actually looked like Mike Tyson when he was younger to the boy that played him, eh?
Yeah, back then.
I'm trying to remember if that came out before or after his comeback. I'm trying to remember.
I tell you what, I'll tie one in there for the listener into the Sugar Ray Robinson and Turpin too, because I would agree that would have been a fantastic fight to be ringside for. But I said it before on the pod when we were talking boxing movies. We fucking have Ray Boom Boom Mancini, Mickey Ward, fucking Vinny Pazienza biopics, Jake LaMotta. Can we get a Ray Robinson biopic? That shit would be lit, man. A pink Cadillac, a midget, a fucking all kinds of shit, crazy shit going on, a bit of domestic abuse. That'd be a great story. Like, why can't we get that? Like,
both him and Joe Louis are stories that need to be told correctly.
You're right. You're right.
I mean, Joe Louis got fucking jacked, man. I mean, that guy got fucking jacked by the IRS.
I saw a good clip of him when him and Ali on TV must have been from the 60s. Lewis is obviously retired and old and, you know, looking at not in great shape. And Ali kind of tries to flagrantly make a remark about like how he would have had an easy time with Lewis. And Lewis says to him, "Well, do you remember I used to do a thing called, it was the Bum of the Month tour?" And Ali's like, "Oh, I would have been on Bum of the Month." And he goes, "Well, you would have been on the tour."
Yeah, man, he was he got really screwed, and Frank Sinatra actually kind of got him out of his financial troubles. I think he paid his medical bills following a heart attack, and then he got him the gig at the casino that Lewis held until he died. If I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob. You're the boxing historian.
I just know that Bird Sugar. Well, Lewis, see the thing when it goes back that far with the footage. Obviously, I follow it and I read the stories, and I read all the stories growing up. But just in terms of watching fights, I find it like it's hard, to watch because the footage is so bad. We've talked about this loads on the pod. It'd be lovely if we could restore fights from back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s to get them in their full glory. But according to Bert Sugar, anyway, it was a great source. He reckoned that Joe Louis was the greatest heavyweight of all time, and who might argue with Bert Sugar?
Just see on Sugar Ray Robinson, Matt. Any listener actually want to get like a really good book to read on Sugar Ray Robinson, even covers. Cause I didn't know this. I read this book actually that Ray Robinson and Joe Louis did their national service at the time during World War II. So and there was obviously a bit of racism going on. But if you look at Sweet Thunder by Will Haygood, it's a really good book actually. It's probably the most definitive book you'll get on Ray Robinson, to be fair.
There you go. Oh, another movie to throw in there, Resurrecting the Champ. You guys ever seen that one?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not seen it for years, mate. But he's a down and out, eh? I think some local kids find him in the street or something like that.
I thought it was like, that sounded like a shitty sequel to The Champ with Ricky Schroeder and John Voight. Don't die, Champ.
We got another question in the queue here. Joe Kennedy. Hey, thanks for that one, Irvin. Joe Kennedy. Oh, just saying, rest in peace, Ernie Shavers, one of the hardest hitters of all time. What was it about Shavers and others like him that make them such lethal punchers? Yes, rest in peace, Ernie Shavers. Got to be one of the best fighters to have never won a title, correct?
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I don't think you won a title.
Did Shavers hold a version of when it fragmented that time or no?
Don't think he did.
He challenged Holmes, but it was a Ken Norton fight. I remember the Ken Norton fight. I thought he actually killed him that night with that fucking shot. Literally, Ken Norton sitting on the bottom rope, like looking at himself. What the fuck just hit me there, man? Like literally, like just sat there, spaced out. Just feel like fucking hell, man. I think he fought Ali. I mean, might have fought Holmes twice, possibly.
One of the fights, actually, you got to give Holmes credit for it. He must have had some chin, because you talk about Fury getting back up off the deck from Wilder with Ernie Shavers absolutely ironed out Larry Holmes, and he was up on like fucking 2 or something. He was up at 8.
He fought Ron Lyle as well. Apparently, there is footage of that fight, but it's quite poor. I think maybe remember me and Steve were doing Lyle against Foreman for Punches for the Past, and we'd mentioned Shavers against Lyle, but it says the footage is quite poor, so you didn't really kind of get a good grasp as to how brutal those knockdowns were, because I think Ronald Lyle had been doing it for the first time in his career, and then he fucking come back and knocked out Shavers around about the 6th or the 7th round. One of the kind of fucking brutal ending, like literally like face planted Shavers, mate. It was one of the most brutal knockouts in history.
Yeah, he was. So back to the question at hand. So what makes them lethal punchers? And that's one of those things that it's not necessarily one thing, but the best punchers usually put together all of it. It's generally, just the creation of leverage. I mean, it's fucking velocity, size of the fist. I mean, just mass of the opponent. I mean, there's so much involved in it, but I mean,
I think it's not. I think it's. I've thought about this a lot over the years, and not to disagree with you, like, or whatever. And I'm sure that there are factors, but I just think it's God-given power. So with certain
like that,
fellas, yeah, you're just born with it. Like some fellas, they're slight, they're small hands, whatever. Like, and they have a fucking bit of dynamite inside their fist. Like, seen it over the years, and I've like struggled to work it out myself. Like, I never had massive power. I had like enough to keep lads off me, I suppose, but nothing concussive, I would say. Like, but fucking, like, some fellas, you're looking at them like half the size of me and would rock the house, hitting a heavy bag and stuff. I think it's just, I think it's God given. Like,
I told you a story about that time. I told you a story about the time about the local flyweight running about my way who was getting dogs abuse. He was retired at this point, and this fucking guy, honestly, he was like, I'm just a normal bloke in the street and that, but he was like fucking 17 stone, and he's getting this guy fucking abuse because he's like, oh, he's a wee guy and that. Well, the wee guy, he says, knows how to throw a fucking punch, knocked this guy, just on his ass, fucking knocked him out. Fucking brutally. Just going back to Shavers as well, mate. Was it Ali that says that it was Shavers had fucking shook his kinfolk back in Africa?
They're so hard. He hurt his kinfolk in Africa.
Fucking, so that's testament as well,
One of the boys mentioned it in the chat. I'm pretty sure Shavers ended up living in Liverpool. Wasn't he doing the doors and Wetherspoons on the Wirral or something like that? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
God damn, and that's before they had a bunch of like the security footage and shit like that. Can you imagine the videos? There must be him banging out some drunk fucking Brits out of the bar. I mean, my God, it would have been amazing.
I don't think it would have got to that too often.
No, it's one of those things.
He banged out a few Brits, mate. I think he'd be up on murder charges, to be fair, mate. He could... Fucking hell, man. With he fists.
It's not like that dude challenging Sonny Edwards quite, but there's just those people that just feel they aren't impressed by fighters and stuff like that. Like, who would just be like, get a couple in them, they'd be like, fuck it, I think I could take Ernie Shavers. Why the fuck not?
Like that footage years
give
ago.
Give me 100 pounds if I take out Ernie Shavers. I'll fucking do it.
Aye, like a couple of Charlie, I'll fucking take one. No problem, mate.
That's actually a good point. You'd think they'd stay away from boxers. I remember Paddy Barnes saying to me, "Why do people keep wanting to hit me all the time? I'm fucking 5'3".
Reminds me of the fucking rest in peace as well. Rocky Lockridge footage. Remember that from years ago? Some guy outside a fucking liquor store or something.
Yeah.
And he faces him up, and the guys are like, "Don't do it,
champ. Don't do it,
champ."
I think it was a left hook, right hand. I think he hit him with the guy.
Left him fucking sideways, man. Unbelievable.
So, let's kind of think about this because we've got to fill a little bit of time here. Like, who are the best punchers in their era? And kind of break down, like, who are some of the best punchers of all time? And let's see if we can find some commonalities on them. Modern, you're obviously talking Deontay Wilder.
Okay? Tommy Hearns for the 80s, I'd say. Hearns was a massive puncher.
And Steve, last week you caught me on Julian Jackson when I was having a brain fart.
Yes.
So you got that. Then Ernie Shavers, Mike Tyson. And let's see here. So we got to go Foreman. Edwin fucking Valero could absolutely punch.
George Foreman.
Alexis Arguello.
Really? You think?
Yeah, he could turn lights with, mate.
Yeah. So go back a little bit. So we're kind of in the 70s right now.
Gerald McClellan.
McClellan could bang. But nobody could quite kill him.
Ray Robinson. I mean, some of the knockouts. What was his name? Bobo Olsen. That check left hook where he was stepping back was fucking tremendous, mate. Just like put him down in sections, put him on his ass. Sat him on his arse, actually. Try to think.
And his power carried up to middleweight as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Going back a little bit, Ray Robinson. I mean,
Joe Lewis could dig as well, mate.
Yeah.
Marciano, obviously.
Yeah, Marciano.
How many KOs did Archie Moore have on his resume?
Mate, he had over 100 fights. I think it was something about the 90
I think he had like 200 fights.
He was like 110 knockouts, something ridiculous.
Archie Moore. Me and Rob were talking about.
And the problem is, and once you get into this territory,
132 knockouts.
It's a footage issue after this, right? It's a footage issue. You're kind of getting there, and the problem with you get to like that Joe Louis kind of time, Sugar Ray Robinson. It's the same problem they had with Bruce Lee, where the cameras were not actually quick enough to say this is how fast this son of a bitch is. We have no real idea.
If you want to go down that road, you're going Jack Dempsey. You got to put Jack Dempsey and all them in it as well, don't you? Like knocking out Jess Willard and big guys like that. Like,
what about like modern times? What about prime Kovalev and Stevenson at light heavy?
Kovalev was a puncher, definitely.
Especially those peak years on HBO, at least Golovkin in his peak years.
Golovkin, definitely a big puncher.
And
Sergio Martinez could dig, mate, as well.
He's not one of the greatest punchers of all time, though. I'm one of the biggest Sergio Martinez fighters. So here's the thing about it, though. So we've listed all these fighters. Some of them are just built like a brick shithouse. Some of them are lanky. Some of them look like they could knock your fucking lights out. Some of them kind of sneakily don't. There's not a lot of commonality. There's not.
Somebody's just doing technique, and as what Rob says, mate, it's like pure God-given power. And as you say as well, maybe they just got the physical dimensions, the heavy hands, the big hands, it's just like this. Somebody, you could land a punch and break your hand with the fucking first shot. Some of these guys have just got like fucking bricks. You just throw a punch and it just doesn't even register with them, the pain or anything like that,
I mean, like obviously it doesn't translate obviously to like being the best boxer or whatever, but it gives you a hell of an advantage, which kind of bringing me to a segue here, seeing as we're on a quiet week, which is the listeners are going to think this is a fucking wind up, but Mrs. is wanting to turn pro. She's wanting to be a pro fighter because Ebony Bridges started boxing at 35, so she's become inspired by that, and she started training. So the lady,
Ebony Bridges, but what you've been saying about Ebony Bridges?
I think it was a joke. It was a joke that came from the podcast one night, I think, and so she's kind of been getting into women's boxing and watching it a bit and that, and so she's wanting to turn pro anyway. Now she's never had a spar even, but she's wanting to be a world champion. So I'm trying to help her along the way, but talking about God-given power, the lady training her told her to bring back the 8-ounce gloves that I got her the other day and come back with 12-ounce because she hits too hard. So I'm hoping. I obviously knew about her raw power, but I know that she struggles with a Wexford shoulder roll defense. So we'll have to see how her career unfolds. But it's a pity that Ebony Bridges has got the blonde bomber nickname, because I wanted her to call her the bomber, so that if she ever got on Sky, that Adam Smith didn't have to say that she's not related to the terror attacks related to Ariana Grande in Manchester. But so watch this space. We're 2 or 3 weeks into it at the moment, so we're building up to a spar. We'll see how it goes, but you never know. I could get you an exclusive interview for Chicks with Dig someday, Maddie, if it keeps going like this.
Tell you what, Rob, you get her actually scheduled for her first pro fight, and we will follow her career. It'll be a feature step by step as she develops.
I'm gonna have to break the news to her as well that we can't fucking have fights in Ireland. She's gonna be extremely disappointed when she hears that.
Great bunch of girls.
Well, it'll give you an excuse to fly over to some other parts of the world around there. Then you can have a fight in Scotland, and Andy can come see you guys and stuff like that. You got a good excuse there. You got to write it off as a business expense.
Just take a little bit of local bars. I get fucking fights in there, no problem.
I think that she could fucking surely win a world title. There's only about six women. Like, we just fucking. I already know she can punch. We just do the rest. Like, it's grand.
What weight is she going to be, Rob?
I was just going
to. I'm not fucking going down that one. I'm sure a really lightweight anyway, Steve. Whatever it is, flyweight.
So you don't see her trying to take on Franchon Cruz Dezern one of these days, Rob?
Whoever the fuck that is, she beat the shit out of her. I know that anyway.
That's 168 pounds, buddy.
Listen, we're doing that a catch race. live on the zone.
So yeah, that was a good question there, Joe, and best of luck to Rob's wife there. So God,
Matty, you got to read that comment out on.
Michael Thompson says Rob can wrap her into the ring. Y'all must have forgot to bring the washing in.
Yeah, dude, the fucking hassle Rob would get me fucking done that, man.
All I'm gonna say, Rob, is
couldn't be any more accurate if you tried. By the way, Michael couldn't be any more accurate.
Rob, all I can say is you got a golden ticket to fucking take a swing at your spouse. Like there's a lot of men who are envious of you in this position right now.
Well, I don't know. I'd say she bites on faints. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Jesus Christ, that's such a fucking great joke. Why didn't you have a follow-up for that? I'm sitting here fucking tears coming out of my eyes trying to...
We can't go there.
Sometimes I have to stop. Sometimes I have to stop myself, Matty, for the good of everyone. You know that way?
God. I know how all those Irish girls feel, Rob. You brought tears to my eyes. Shit. That was a good one. Thanks for that one, Joe Kennedy. I don't know how we ended up there, but you got us there somehow. God bless you. God bless you. And Steve, I think speaking of Joe Kennedy, don't we have a picture of somebody in one of our T-shirts here?
Yep, we do indeed. That's Ronnie Hussein modeling the T-shirts. The T-shirts are coming soon.
Go on, Ron, boy.
The first batch did brilliantly, so Danny Young's going to do a second batch soon. There's Ronnie Hussein. He says, "Do my best Andy Ruiz, a junior impression, to pretend I'm Slin." He's on the tightrope of a medium there, is Ronnie, but he's still pitching.
See, fucking Ruiz acts like we can't fucking read the scale. Like, yeah, fucking suck it in, fat boy. Your titty's still jiggling.
I haven't seen him in the chat tonight, but he's a good lad, is Ronnie. So,
Ronnie, thank you for showing that off, and thank you, Joe, for putting those. It was Joe who put those T-shirts up, wasn't it?
Danny Young put the T-shirts together. Yeah.
Jesus
Joe's
Christ.
the head of the prediction league. That's what it is. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, these guys, everybody loves
they're doing their bit. They're doing their bit. Absolutely.
We have a nice community of folks here. You've got a couple of gals to join us in the Patreon too, right, Steve? We're not exclusively for the boys. If you're a boxing fan, you can join the fun over on Patreon.
Yep, my husky voice on Patreon, Steve.
Exactly. OnlyFans coming soon. No, Holly's in there, and yep, she's representing the girls. Chicks with Dig over there.
Oh, there you go. Let's see here. So while we got a lot of stuff coming up on the weekend, I'm trying to figure out where to kind of start it off at here. But I think, guys, because I'm going to do an episode specifically on Chicks with Dig about this, obviously coming up on this Saturday. But I would love to get your thoughts on the two fights coming up this weekend from the UK. Possibly, I mean, God, they're trying to give the Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano fight a run for its money with Best Female Card of the Year, with Clarissa Shields taking on Savannah Marshall for all the marbles at middleweight. And then you also have a fight for 3 belts at 130 pounds between Michaela Mayer and Alicia Baumgardner. Rob, I'm going to kick this one off with you. The odds are in Michaela Mayer's favor, but I've been following it, but they've tightened up a little bit. Some money coming in on Miss Baumgardner, who is definitely a puncher. Mayer more of a boxer. I don't know. I have a tough one. I might just be a little bit fond of Michaela Mayer, but I think she boxes her way to a decision. Tell me why I'm wrong, Rob.
Rob is watching this fight with a fucking roll of fucking toilet paper.
I'm looking to see, can we get the missus in to be a sparring partner for Baumgardner, to be honest with you.
I knew you were going to say that.
Just do a lot of grappling for the first couple of weeks till you find your feet. I agree with you, Matty. I think I'm obviously a huge Baumgardner fan. Regularly check in on her career, know a lot about her fights and stuff, and her Instagram page. But I think Mayer's just got the edge in terms of experience, and probably just a level above. I think Baumgardner's game, I think she can definitely punch. Wouldn't be surprised if she knocks Mayer out, but I think you rarely see the stoppages a la the Terry Harper fight in women's boxing, and I think probably a better boxer is going to win that fight. So I'm going to edge with Meyer on decision as well. The same as yourself. I just can't see Baumgardner working her out over the distance fight, but it should be a good scrap, man. It's exciting as well. They seem to have, both of them have a bit of personality, a bit of character, and they're doing their job selling the fight. So, be an interesting one.
Yeah, it definitely should be a good fight. And I kind of feel bad going to you first because this is going to be one of 3 predictions that we're having this week. So next I'll go up to Steve on this one. Steve, can this card get you in the swing of women's boxing? You feeling the vibe on this one?
No, but the top 2 fights I'm looking forward to. I do try with the women's boxing, as you know. Some of it's better than others. Some of it is absolute shit, and the standard is really poor. But some of the fights, like I said before, if it's an interesting fight, doesn't matter whether it's men, women, Martians, I'll watch it. And I am interested in these top 2 fights, especially Shields against Marshall. That does get me going the same way Taylor against Serrano and Taylor against who was the Belgian girl she fought the 2 times?
Pursoon?
Pursoon. Yeah,
Pursoon.
Yeah, if it's good fights and fighters I'm invested in, whether male or female, I'll watch it. I just don't want it forced down my throat, for want of a better expression. But anyway, back to the point. As for Michaela Mayer against Baumgardner, there's a lot of titles on the line. Don't know too much about either of them. I know Baumgardner came in and knocked out Terry Harper. That was the rewiring in the middle of the ring. They've had a bit of beef on Twitter, these two. They don't like each other. She beat somebody else recently in a fight in Manchester, Matisse, that's right. I remember that one. And then Michaela Mayer, who's she beating? I'm having a look and box it pretty quickly now. Hamdouche, I saw that one. Wasn't impressed, going to admit. Baumgardner's lost.
I'm a douche.
Oh, sorry, I'm a douche. I'm a halale. So I am going to go for, this is Prediction League, yes? This is in the Prediction League?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think that Baumgardner's going to have a moment, but again, the 10-2's curse is going to come to pass, and Mayer's going to have a little bit more quality over the distance, and I think she's going to win on points. So I'm going for Michaela Mayer on points, but I am interested in watching this, and I will watch this fight.
Yeah, I think it's a good 1-2 punch for a couple of fights. It could get spoiled. We'll get into that a little bit later. Andy, where are you going on this one?
Well, first, I agree with everything Steve was saying there. I will watch these 2 fights. So obviously, you've got kind of like it's like 1 and 2 in the division. Well, when you talk about Mayer against Baumgardner first, mate, another thing as well is I like to have seen these 2 fights possibly being over 10-3s as well. But I think Mayer probably wins. I'm going to say Mayer wins on points, and I'm kind of like tossed up between Shields and Marshall. The GOAT doesn't seem to have punching power as such. I know again it comes down to levels in the women's games and that as well. So maybe is Marshall's power legit, or is this because he's been fighting kind of soft?
Don't get into that one yet. We'll get into it next.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit it's interesting at least. You know, it says a women's card. 2 main events, as I say, it's more kind of got my interest at least. So I will watch these 2. I like Mayer in this fight, to be fair. I think she's a decent enough boxer. I've not really seen too much of Baumgardner, so I've got to kind of rely on Rob, actually, to be fair, on her inside leg measurements, that type of thing as well. So
she's built like a puncher. She's built like a puncher from the bottom up. She's got the base.
And it seems to be, I don't know if it's all the titles on the line, if it's all the belts, if it's
3 of them, I think. 3 of them. I think there's one that's floating around still.
Right. So it's good enough. It's what you want, as I say. Is, you know, if you didn't want to see the women having like these easy title defenses against chicks that have had like 7-6, you know, record, for example, which we've seen before. We've seen chicks getting ice within 10 seconds, just shouldn't even be anywhere near a ring. So at least these 2 fights at least have kind of like brought kind of like 1 and 2 together in the division as such. And it's the type of fights as boxing fans, at least, if you're going to see women's fights, you want to see at least the more talented female fighters, you know, fighting each other. So this is something a wee bit more along our lines now. So fair play to Sky, because it seems to be like, especially the Marshall Shields fight, it seems to be kind of a long waltz to that fight as well. It seems to be kind of like happening, and then there's been injuries or whatever the situation's been or whatever it is. So it's good to see their final happening at least.
All right. Some Mayer on points, you say there, Andy?
Mayer on points for me, mate. Right.
That's the way I'm going too, so we can just ice this one. So if anybody's looking to build a parlay over the next week, that one, I think Mayer's paying like -200. So it could be a worthy shot to throw in there. If you take the points option, I think you're getting closer to even money on that one, although that's definitely going to be favored. So So I'm going. I have to go that way too. I think if Baumgardner's going to get her out of there, I think she's going to get her out of there early. I think once Mayer has been able to establish a rhythm, get comfortable at the distance, she'll be able to control the fight with the jab down the line and take home a points victory. I think it could be close, though. I wouldn't be shocked if Baumgardner gets card or if there's an even card. I'm thinking Mayer's going to win, 97, 93-ish kind of realm. But it could be a really good, fight. And Baumgardner can punch, so she's alive all the way through.
Sky could really do with a show. Actually, it's actually decent quality. But you can just imagine though, because this card's all women, can you imagine if this card doesn't deliver any type of excitement or anything like that? Jesus Christ.
Well, I'll tell you, and I think that one will. But Andy, as a segue, Shields versus Marshall. I think this is a good fight. All the marbles at 160 pounds. Both of these gals can fight really well. One of them with a clear edge and punching power. Marshall did have that victory. I believe it was in the Worlds in 2012 over Clarissa Shields. Shields only with the one stoppage in her fight history. She has a bit of a pop. She's put other fighters down. I don't know how she'd fare in 12-3s necessarily. But you got to give that edge to Marshall. But what Shields likes to do is throw lots of combinations from mid-range. And you look at Marshall, you look at kind of a little bit of a lankier build, got the long jab, long right hand. But man, like in that last fight, she can throw that left hook in tight too. So there could be some good exchanges in this fight. But Steve, my bad feeling on this one is that Clarissa Shields is so full of herself. In order to win, she doesn't mind fighting a sloppy fight to get it. Unlike Serrano and Taylor, who were willing to put it out there because they knew how much it meant. What are you thinking?
What do you mean by a sloppy fight, sorry?
I think she could do a lot of clinching. She could do a lot of mauling, just a lot of ways to make it a really not watchable fight and to keep Marshall from being able to throw. She just needs to keep her occupied. And I think once she gets caught in the first exchange and fills Marshall's power with the smaller gloves, I think she could turn it dirty.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't want to see that type of fight. I want the GWOAT to come out and feel like she has a point to prove and goes toe-to-toe with Marshall. Whether that's the right philosophy for her or not, or the right strategy, probably not. But that's the type of fight I want to see. I want to see her backing up these claims. It's an excellent fight. It's got all the ingredients. There's titles on the line. There's a personal history between the two of them. They don't like each other. I do believe that. There's an intense beef. There's a lack of brain cells floating about. Shields, she talks like this puncher. She goes on about all these men that she's knocking out in sparring. It's clearly a load of bollocks. She's only ever knocked 2 women out in her whole career in all of her 12 fights. So she's not a puncher at all. And she keeps saying, oh, she's the champion. She's come over to make the best fights. I respect her for coming over. But let's be honest, we know why she's come over. The money ain't there for her in the States. That's why. Shalom, Boxer, Sky, Bean, whoever it is, they've put the money up for this fight. That's why she's here. There's no interest in the States. They've tried pay-per-views. That she's promoted by Dimitri Salita for a reason. Nobody wants to pay to watch her fight, and she has a chip on her shoulder. And I can see why, because she's made a lot of progress in her career. She's achieved a lot of things, but the financial rewards just aren't there for her, and she just can't accept that. And I do feel bad for her in that respect, but she's here for a reason. This is where the money is. She had no other options. She had to come. I'd love to see her lose just for the banter. Can you imagine the meltdown in the ring, especially if it's a close decision afterwards? She's going to go absolutely fucking ballistic. But that said, I'm not really that impressed by Marshall from what I've seen of her. Marshall's good. Is she the puncher they make her out to be? Up against people like Lolita Mosea, who came in with the old Lost Pretty Short, 16-0, must have been feasting on dead bodies. She's going to look like the puncher. How hard does she actually hit? That's what I want to know. And especially over 10-2s, after the first 3 or 4 rounds, you got the GWOAT grabbing onto you, leaning down on you in the clinches, as you said. Is she the real banger? Is she really that good, Marshall? I'm not convinced that she is, to be honest. And is she going to land the big, massive shot to change the fight? I don't really think that she will. So I hope that Marshall wins for the banter, but I'm going for the GWOAT on points. I think she'll win this fight. And the screaming afterwards in the ring is going to be absolutely obscene. But good luck to both girls, as they always say. I'm looking forward to the fight. I think it's a good one. And hopefully we'll get someone knocked out, but I doubt it.
So where are you going on this one, Steve?
Shields on points.
All right. Shields on points. Rob, what are you thinking, my friend?
Yeah, I'd favour Shields, but I definitely think she's a little bit spooked by Marshall. She's been ringside when Marshall has punished fighters that have gone the distance with her. She definitely feels that result in the amateurs, no matter how much. I think that she always gets mad loud, doesn't she, when she's confronted about that, like as if she's kind of hiding something. So I definitely think mentally, actually, Marshall has the edge here. So it's gonna depend a lot on how the fight plays out in the early rounds. So I'd favour Shields on points. But I think Marshall's going to have moments, big moments in the fight, and I don't think it's a guarantee. I'm going to say Shields on points, but I think it'll be closer than a lot of us would have imagined. I think Marshall will have big moments in the fight, and I think she will hurt her as well.
All right. That's interesting, and I'll tell you, before we go into Andy, what I thought was very interesting, taking a look at it. So they're basically paying about the same. Savannah Marshall's barely a favorite. I'm looking at -110 versus -115. So basically the VIG and the VIG plus on Shields. As far as the outcome goes, though, Andy, most likely is Shields by by decision at +130. Almost even with what she's just paying out on the decision. And then you also have behind that, you're going to have Shield or Marshall by decision +260, Marshall by KO +275, Shields by KO TKO +750. The draw +1100, which is paying about half as much as usual. That's a much more likely draw than they usually offer on these. It's an interesting fight. Where are you going?
Well, I tell you what I want, and I'm kind of maybe just pick it, to be fair, actually. But I think Marshall could maybe knock her out, to be fair. But then it comes down to the fact as Steve says, all these opponents that Marshall's knocked out, is the power legit? The other thing I want to see as well, I know Shields just kind of like weight hopped a little bit, hasn't she? I think she's went from welterweight up to super middleweight. Now it's not a great barometer in women's boxing because again, it's just the talent level's not there as such. I want to see what the rehydration is going to look like in the ring, and then we'll maybe get a better idea. But I personally think along the lines of Shields possibly pumping out the combinations, keeping busy, maybe keep herself at mid-distance. Maybe she is a wee bit spooked or wary of the power. Does Marshall just kind of go loading up for her shots? I don't know how it plays out, but this is what we're kind of wanting to see. The 1 and 2 of the division. I want to pick Marshall to win by knockout, just to be different, and the safe option would be obviously Shields to do it on points, but fuck it, I'm going to say it. I'm going to go Marshall by stoppage. I'd be a bit more confident saying if it was 12-3s, but the 10-2s always get me spooked. You just don't know what you're going to get actually over these 10-2s. You can get high action, but not really a lot of kind of quality combinations landing or anything like that. So I maybe make a run my own black, but I'm going to go Marshall knockout late.
Marshall is one of the few fighters who is a real puncher in women's boxing. She can bang. I think that, yeah, Steve made a few good points on level of opposition, but she can flat out punch. That said, Shields is a tough cookie. She lost that MMA fight, but I think it is a distance fight. And it, if I was betting this, I think that might be the way that I'd go on that, just kind of throwing that out there. But I think personally, I'm going to go with Marshall on points.
Marshall on points, yeah, I could see that too,
Shields will be unbearable though if she wins this fucking fight, man. But that's what I'm saying. Can you imagine if Marshall does knock her out? The humble pie she'll need to take is going to be incredible. I mean, with none of this gold talk.
She'll be twice as unbearable if she loses. I think she could. Her post-fight meltdown will be fucking twice as bad as AJ's if she loses, man. Imagine she loses a decision to Savannah Marshall. She's not going to take it, no chance.
But she can't see she's 18 stone, no, mate, can she? She can't see she's 18 stone.
But I think Marshall's in the fight. I think there's something about Marshall's power that she felt when she was an amateur. Now, I didn't see the fight or whatever, but you know, like I've been in there, or even if you're only moving around and having a spar, if someone can really punch and they catch you, you'll fucking remember that way more than somebody who you tanked or somebody who even fucking outpointed you. You remember who cracked you, like so. I don't know. Like I think there's a bit of a psychological edge for Marshall in this fight, and it depends how Shields handles it on the night.
Yeah, like I said, I think Shields could definitely try to spoil it and win that way, but her arrogance could be her downfall. You don't want to sit there and take punches from Savannah Marshall. I'm telling you.
Let's
right
be
now.
honest too.
Not gonna well.
Sorry, Matty, for all of her dominance as well. You're a women's boxing fan more than I am. I've never been excited to watch Shields. I think she's boring as shit to watch. She's not a puncher. A lot of her fights after the first couple of rounds of activity just descend into boring. You know, her outboxing the opposition. There's no real great fight. She's not an exciting fighter. I don't mind listening to her outside of the ring up to a point, but I don't look forward to her fights. They're crap.
I don't particularly enjoy her either. I think that Marshall winning and then maybe finding a way to get her in the ring, either moving up or getting her down against Franchon Cruz-Dezurn. We've already seen the quote against Dezurn. A rematch would be kind of cool for Cruz-Dezurn to see if she can't get revenge. But I think that's a good fight. Dezurn comes into bang. She's a character. And I just think it works out better for boxing. And I think we can all agree that Clarissa Shields is one of those people that could really do with eating a piece of humble pie. It would do her a world of good, I personally believe.
I want to see Uncle Leon, you know, come across, try that shit with Peter Fury, see how he fucking lands with that bollocks, man.
Will they let him in, do you think? Will he get in?
I don't know, to be fair, actually. But remember,
he's a scumbag, in him.
Who was the old guy? Who was the old trainer as well? Remember, Shields was training for a fight, and the old trainer got attacked by her brother.
Oh, James Ali Bashir.
That's the one. Yeah,
he was Nika Habizin's trainer, I think.
That's the one. Yeah. That's the one. So we bit come up in stew actually as well. To be fair, I like to see Marshall kind of pull it off. To be fair as well, because it says that Shields is just too much to fucking bear sometimes. And Rob's probably got a point as well, as if she does get beat, gets badly beat, she'll be fucking crying and squealing and shrieking all over the fucking place, man. But that's what you want.
Joe Burns throwing 449 in there. Says, can't wait for Creepy Beans photo bombing for Mayor Baumgardner weigh in.
It's the guard you need to look out for, man, to be fair. Man, he'll be under the stage. I bet he'll fucking drilling holes through the stage. He'll have a fucking peer up. That's what he'll do.
The next couple of weeks are good for the guard. Let's put it that way. I'm being
the guard.
Fucking driller killer.
It's a peephole during the day, but it's a glory hole at night. It has many purposes.
It has a blue lens over it at nighttime.
Wonder why we're not on iTunes.
Great shout.
Anyways, that is coming up on Saturday. And definitely going to be a good card. I'm also, if you guys are just looking forward to a few things to watch during the week, on Thursday on DAZN in the evening. So I know a lot of you UK folks sure as hell ain't staying up for this, but if you want to watch the replay, got a minimum weight unification in the women's sport at between Yokasta Valle and Thithu Ni Win. That was a bastard to say. So you can catch that on Thursday. On Friday, we have a Showbox card. Joseph Adorno versus Hugo Alberto Roldan headlining that one. So not a lot of great action, but some action.
Can I quickly mention a couple of shows, Matty, if you don't mind?
Are you into want to get deeper into the Thithu Ni Win?
As much as I'd love to get thigh deep into that, and I was going to mention, shout out to former guest Liam Dillon, who's fighting. He was supposed to fight the Money Machine, the Nigerian guy, recently before he pulled out. Sorry, the Wealth Machine, if you recall. But he's got a fight now for the English title against undefeated Levi Giles on Fight Zone. So that's Dennis Hobson's TV show is still going strong. Also, shout out to Brandon Lantern, who's fighting over the weekend. Very exciting fighter. He's on this Pro Box TV, which is the Roy Jones, Antonio Tarver, Paulie Malignaggi initiative. I don't know how that's going to end up, probably like Triller. But anyway, Glanton had a really good fight, you might recall, back in 2021 against Effie Apoche, the Pitbull. So he's one to watch. Glanton came from American football, but he's a good fighter. So that'll be an exciting fight, hopefully, next weekend. And we should be able to get hold of that one on Pro Box TV.
Exceptional. Now, for what's coming up in a few hours over here. I don't know if any of you guys are staying awake over here. We have Labor Day coming up tomorrow, so we can stay up late. Yep. We've
got Labour tomorrow, man. I have to go to fucking work.
Exactly, man. Even with my inebriated state, I still need to get to work tomorrow morning. Fucking hell.
Well, ain't that a motherfucker? Don't cough on anyone.
Hey, sharing's caring, mate. That's what it's all about.
Not only should Andy get the day off, let's get everyone the day off. So this card is going to be headlined by Andy Ruiz versus Luis Ortiz. But there's a number of fights coming up. Some of them on the pay-per-view, some of them off. Trying to remember the order. Charles Martin is going to be on this early on in an 8-rounder against Devin Vargas. Devin Vargas, I believe, has a pretty strong amateur background.
He was an Olympian, wasn't he? I think back in 2004. 8 was it? Right, okay.
I think it might have been 8. I think it might have been the same one as Deontay Wilder. So you have that on there, and a lot of these guys, there's a lot of underdogs I think are live in that one, including Vargas. Then we move up the card, undefeated Joey Spencer, 15-0, taking on Kevin Salgado, 14-0-1. He has 9 stoppages and a draw with Bryant Perella in his last outing. Then you have, this is where we might want to start having some discussion on this, gents. A 10-round fight at 135 pounds between Abner Merez and Miguel Flores. To be fair, Flores typically campaigns at featherweight. He does have a small height advantage over Merez. Merez coming back after that detached retina. Steve, I don't know.
That guy's poor in the last couple of fucking years, to be fair, that guy that Maris is fighting, so it's probably kind of evened itself up a wee bit as well.
Maybe. He's not as big of an underdog as a lot of people on here. I don't know, Steve. One of them things like you're kind of like, I kind of wish this was not on here.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about this fight. Mares obviously has the right to fight. Yeah, that they've obviously allowed him to fight, but the eye would be a concern. Always when a fighter's had an issue with an eye and they're coming back again, it is concerning seeing them getting punched in that eye. But at the end of the day, he's a sovereign individual. He's made that choice. The doctors obviously signed him off. Where's this taking place? Probably going to be Texas or something, isn't it? So anyone know, Los Angeles. So I don't know. Maybe there's more stringent controls. New York, I know they're very strict, so maybe they wouldn't have let him fight. But I think the best place for Mares, he's made a lot of money. Truth be told, he has a big, massive house. I'm not really sure why he's back fighting after 4 years out. Flores is decent enough. He's a tough enough opponent coming back, and he might be able to cause the upset. But I'll be watching this one through one eye. Hopefully, Mares isn't afterwards. But I'm a little bit concerned by Mares' welfare in this one, to be honest. Just to touch briefly as well on one of the other fights you mentioned there, Matty. I want to get my 2 pence worth in case I don't get to claim this afterwards. See Salgado against Joey Spencer. I kind of fancy Salgado in that one. I don't think he's too bad at all. And Spencer, he's a bit of a pretty boy. He can clearly fight, but he has stamina issues down the stretch. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Salgado winning that one. But as for Mares, I don't really want to see him fighting too much. I do have opinions on a couple of the others, Alim and Valenzuela, but I'll hold on to them for the moment.
I agree with Steve, that Salgado one. That's another one of those Mexicans, mate, that could be anything really at the end of the day, you know.
Yep,
and
he's also an underdog. Like I said, and I mean, those are just 3 fights. Vargas paying more than 10-1. I wouldn't doubt him against Charles Martin. He's hot and cold as any fighter. Kevin Salgado against Joey Spencer, another underdog. Miguel Flores against Merez. Merez totally unknown at this point in time. Then we move up, 10-round, 122-pound fight. Rais Alim, 19-0, 12 knockouts. 11 years since his professional debut. He's now 32, taking on Filipino Mike Plania, 26-1, 13 stoppages to his record. Steve, Alim is a good fighter. I see a lot of talent there, but man, shit or get off the pot, dude.
Well, I think he's struggled, hasn't he, to get promoters and stuff like that. He's fiddled around, like you said. He's been a pro for a long time. He's not well, I suppose his record would prove me wrong, saying he's not the biggest puncher in the world. He can clearly punch. I thought he had a tough enough time with Eduardo Baez, sorry. But then Baez went in and was winning rounds before he got stopped with the body shot against Navarrete. So he's obviously a good fighter. The time is now for Alim. He's waited around for a long time, like you said. I think it was the Vic Pasillas fight. That was really what said to the PBC, this is a good fighter worth watching. Both undefeated, came in, knocked him down multiple times. Pasillas was the favourite in that as well. And he looked like a real prospect. So absolutely, shit or get off the pot, get him in. And Plania is no mug whatsoever. He's only lost to Payano. He's a good fighter. He's got a good engine on him. This is a really good fight. The card overall is really good, actually. It's one of the best top to bottom cards of the year. Now, the fact, obviously, that makes it more bitter is that we're paying, well, I'm not going to be, but the likes of you or other suckers of your nature, no offense, Matthew, are going to be paying $75 to $80 of pay-per-view and that for this, which is fair enough. But the card itself is actually good, and I'm looking forward to it greatly. I'll throw in quickly as well, Valenzuela's opponent was originally supposed to be Jezreel Corrales, who has now pulled out, and against Edwin De Los Santos, who you might remember, Matty, we discussed a few earlier on this year, fought William Foster III on one of those showbox cards that Samson Lukovic comes on.
To a split decision?
Split decision, good fight. De Los Santos is a puncher, but ran out of ideas badly as the fight went on. But he'll be there for Valenzuela to hit, and he can hit too. So I think that might be a better fight, actually. Corrales is a little bit slippier. De Los Santos is going to be standing right in front of Valenzuela. And Valenzuela is in the Gervonta Davis sweepstake, along with the likes of Michel Rivera and other no marks of that name. So if he can get a good win, another knockout, he knocked out Vargas in his last fight, he could be a future opponent for Gervonta Davis, which I wouldn't necessarily want to see, but just keep an eye on him for that reason.
Yeah, and I mean, he wrecked Vargas in a round.
Yeah, Vargas is done, but, you know.
Win over Dulé. Well, and what's interesting, segueing into the Isaac Cruz fight, Isaac Cruz went 12 with Vargas. It was a taller fighter.
Yeah.
Eduardo Ramirez doesn't have that big of an advantage on him, but he does have a height and reach advantage against Isaac Cruz. And as I have often said, with his dimensions, Cruz is one of those guys, if he runs into a dude who's willing to jab, move, can turn a little bit, he could be in trouble. It's going to be hard to reach the target. Is Eduardo Ramirez that guy?
Yeah, I think he'll outbox Cruz for rounds. I actually think this will go the distance, even though they're both punchers. I agree. Remember when Cruz fought that Matias, that shitty Argentinian, who ran like a thief for 12 rounds? Cruz had trouble closing him down and closing the range down. So I agree. If Ramirez stands off and jabs him, I think Cruz could be in a lot of trouble. Styles make fights, and Cruz can look brilliant or he can look shit. Much like any fighter, I suppose. But I think that will be a distance fight, and I think it could be a lot closer than people think. And if Ramirez was to beat Cruz, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, and the PBC is good at matchmaking, Steve. We're constantly impressed by them. They find a way, and oftentimes we find ourselves scoffing at the card that they put together on Sunday, and then fast forward a week later, and we are praising it, being like, wow, those were actually very well-matched fights. Didn't see that coming. And they oftentimes put these together on just a couple of weeks' notice, these cards, and just pull these guys out of nowhere. It seems, I don't know how they work the program exactly at the PBC, Steve, but it seems to me like they have guys that are keeping themselves in the gym, and they're always ready for that call.
Yeah, well, number one, Tom Brown's a good matchmaker, and number two, they always keep people on call. They look after you as well, I think. I know everyone shits on the PBC, but they pay you and they look after you. And if you put in a good performance, and they will repay you with opportunities. And they are really good, as you said, about making sure cards don't fall apart. They always have guys just sneaking around on the undercard. Look at the other day when AB pulled out against Figueroa. They had Lipinets on the undercard ready to go. When Spence fights Crawford, I bet you they'll have someone like Danny Garcia, heaven forbid, or Thurman or somebody like that on the undercard ready to jump in, or Ugas. I mean, I know that we don't necessarily want to see those fights, but they're really good at making sure cards don't fall through.
Well, even Cruz himself, he got a shot, didn't he? Because Gervonta fell through. Yeah, Rolly Romero the first time. So, and he gave such a good account of himself. He's been presented with other opportunities by Uncle Alex.
Yep.
Well, and Steve, to your point, thinking that it might go a while, The over-under is 10.5. To go the distance is negative 115, yes, minus 120 on no. So they're pretty split on whether there's going to be a stoppage or not in this fight. So there's, maybe this should have been part of the prediction league, but it's it's definitely an interesting fight. Andy, Rob, do you guys want to touch on any of these undercard fights before we get to the main event?
I'll let Rob go first, mate.
Yeah, I think Cruz is on a good trajectory. Like, I think he's been given this opportunity because his performances, his last two fights, and I favour him for the knockout, man. I think with the bit between his teeth, he could actually be a good kind of boogeyman that you need. You know, one of these roughhouse characters like that you need. He's going to come forward, throw punches, action-packed Latino bad guy. We need a new Marcos Maidana. We need a new Mayorga. We need a new heir to the throne. Like, so I'm going to back him for the knockout for Cruz in this one.
Excellent. Andy, do you have any thoughts on the undercard?
Just on the Cruz Ramirez fight, mate, I'm trying to remember. I think Edward Ramirez or Eduardo Ramirez has got an L on his record that's probably shouldn't be there. I think it was the Claudio Marrero.
Yep, and he's picked up 5 wins since then, too. Well, there's some decent opposition. Definitely
the scorecards were a bit of disgrace, so I think, for calling that fight. I don't know if it was closer or if maybe Ramirez should have got a decision, but you say he has got some good names on his resume. He's fought Lee Selby. He has travelled a fair bit as well. And some of the guys he's fought, he's another one of these Sinaloa Mexicans as well. So, again, tough, seasoned. He's at that point in his career, whereas there's not so much last chance saloon, but it's getting to that point for him now as well. I know there's a belt as such in the line, so there'll be ranking points for this, so it keeps him relevant. I kind of agree with what the guys are saying as well. I think it could be pretty much a distance fight in this one, barring any upset injuries that we didn't know about. But I'm fancying that. I really am fancying that fight, to be fair, more than anything else is on the undercard, to be honest with you. Or the main event, to be fair to that, actually, if you want to segue into that now.
Absolutely. Like I said, as I worked through this undercard, I got more and more excited about trying to stay up and watch all this stuff. Everybody cross your fingers for me. Dr. FMG throwing $7.99 in there. I'm holding your question up, my friend. We're going to get to that after this preview and before we get to the value of the week. But I have not forgot about you. Thank you very much for the super chat. We appreciate you. The main event, heavyweight fight. Fat Andy Ruiz taking on the geezer Luis Ortiz. The Mexican versus the Cuban. A tale as old as time. Not as common in the heavyweight division. In the pros, lots of amateur stories, I'm sure. But Steve, what stands out to me on this one, and I challenged last week, when is the last time that Andy Ruiz has fought a southpaw? Now, to be fair, on BoxRec, there are a few unknowns early in his career. But the most definite answer I had was when he fought Zalel Zhang in the amateurs. That is the only southpaw I can find on the Andy Ruiz resume, amateur or professional. He's the fairly heavy favorite in this one, Steve, but God, there's got to be a reason they've kept him away from southpaws. I know they're not plentiful in the heavyweight division, but there's got to be a reason.
Oh, he's the heavy favourite. I'm not sure how heavy he's going to come in, but you know he can't afford to come in looking like
268. He came in at 268.
Doesn't sound great on paper, but while I appreciate your heavyweight southpaw research about Ruiz, I would say at this point in his career, he's been around a long time as a pro, as an amateur. I'd say he's probably sparred a number of. So no, I know it's not the same as fighting them, but sparred a number of southpaws. And I don't think it'll present as much as an issue. I'd say he'll be able to deal with a southpaw okay. Personally, I could be completely wrong. If Ortiz comes out with the right hook, straight left hand, and just bounces it off his head repeatedly, then, as I say, I'm happy to be wrong. But I don't think that'll present as much as an issue as people think. Everything of this card says to me that Ruiz is going to win. He has the pedigree in the past. He's a former world champion. They can market him in a fight against someone like Deontay Wilder in future. It's going to be all set up, stacked in his favour. That said, I'm going to go against the grain on this. I don't see a lot of people picking my man, Luis Ortiz. He looked like shit in that fight against Charles Martin. I was talking to Joe Kennedy about this in the week. Absolutely looked terrible before he came back and hit the big equaliser, the big power bomb. He's definitely about 50 years of age. We're all agreed on that too. And I give him slim chance of winning. But that said, I'm going to have to pick Ortiz on this. I'm going against the grain. It's going to be my heart over my head. One big last performance for Ortiz. Ruiz is tough enough around the beard. I'd be surprised to see him stopped, but I think he can be hurt. Areola hurt him. He's been hurt in the past. And I just think that Ortiz is going to get enough rounds in the bank, land enough hard shots. He's going to bring back the Ortiz of old that we saw in that second fight against Wilder before he got knocked the hell out. And Ruiz, for all of his skills, he flatters to deceive. We've seen him in the past. He doesn't set a high pace. He manages to look mediocre whenever the big performance is there. And as I always say, Matty, boring as I am, you have to look at people over time. That AJ fight so far has turned out to be an anomaly. It's an outlier to the rule of Ruiz's career. He's never been able to produce that before or after, albeit he hasn't fought in that situation. I think we know what he is as a fighter, and I think Ortiz is going to out-hustle him. Down the stretch, it's going to be difficult because Ortiz is going to be tired because he's so old, but I'm going for Ortiz on points. Against all common knowledge here, I'll probably be the only one on the pod, but I'm going for Ortiz to win this.
I don't know about that. Rob, when I look at this, man, Andy Ruiz lives and dies throwing those combinations at mid-range. No southpaw on his resume. And that's where Luis Ortiz has so much variation in that left hand. I
kind of agree. Like I said this last week, I think I agree with you and Steve to a degree, right? So I think the thing about Andy Ruiz, I've only really watched him in the fights that he's had at the top level, but Joe Parker, very close fight, life or death. Some people had him winning, but I think Joe Parker, at that stage of his career, at least B-level fighter at best that had a fringe belt, or that was fighting for won a fringe belt. I think that was a vacant title once the Fury split took place, wasn't it? So he wasn't that impressive that night. I guess he could have got the decision. He was active, his hands were active. Against AJ, I think Steve makes a good point. Yes, that's an anomaly. But I think as well as that, if you look at upsets, that was the greatest upset in boxing history. Some said, I don't think it was. I think Buster and Mike Tyson probably beat it. But it was one of the biggest upsets ever. But I think, like with Tyson, with AJ, you're going to see down the stretch in his career, when you look back at it retrospectively, it might not look like as big an upset as it was, if you get what you see. Because Tyson repeated certain things that he did in the Douglas fight later on in his career, and I think AJ will do the same. And when you look back at it, it won't look as big of a deal beating AJ. So that's kind of trying to bring me to the point that I don't really know how good Ruiz
Welcome
is.
to ADD Asylum.
Yeah, sorry, dude. I'm trying to get to the point that I don't really know how good Ruiz is in terms of that result or what that meant. Because in the rematch, of course, to quote Ozzy, he came back fat as a pig in Saudi Arabia, and he couldn't even get next to Joshua. Did ruffle him a little bit when he did catch him in those very small moments in that fight. Then looked like total shit against Areola. And like I said last week, in the Wilder fight, and I know it's a while ago, in the two Wilder fights, Ortiz barely lost a second of any round to Wilder. And say what you want, Wilder had moments in the fight against Fury in different rounds where he was winning rounds, few and far between, albeit, but still, even against Fury, he was causing probably more, putting more pressure on him and making him be more uncomfortable than he was against Ortiz. So there's a lot to be said for that. And I think Ruiz is good at slipping shots in close distance and in mid-range. He definitely makes you work when you're standing in front of him. He's got good counter ability. He's got fast hands. But has he got anything that Ortiz hasn't seen before, or that's going to really worry him? So really, it's just age, I think, against Ortiz in this. If these two are in their pomp, I'd probably favor Ortiz every day of the week. But Andy Ruiz is in good shape. I think he's probably fresher. And
he
I think
came in at 268, Rob.
Well, that's good shape for him. It's not for me. For me, if I was 268, I'd be fucking depressed. But for him, that's good. So fucking, I think he'd be a little bit sharper and a bit more active, and he'd probably eke out a decision. So I'm gonna go Ruiz on points.
Ruiz on points. Very, very interesting on that one. I didn't see you going there. You threw me a curveball, Rob. Threw me a big curveball. It was an ode to Ortiz until then.
Rob played that well, didn't he, actually?
I'm telling you. Andy, where are you going on this one?
I'm kind of on the same kind of trains of thoughts of both the guys, to be fair. I'm not too sure at this point because, again, Ruiz he's had his chances, mate. I'll never forgive him for how he turned up in that Joshua fight. Never forgive him. I mean, he fucking go away and blow it like that. It was incredible. Ortiz, just, again, since the Wilder fight, he hasn't really fought anybody. But saying that, I still think he's got, at least I hope anyway, I think he's got the skills, still got maybe enough about him at this point, whatever age he is, to do the business. I'm going to go Ortiz on points.
Also going Ortiz on points. It's interesting because the over-under on this 12-round fight is at 8.5. So it's really interesting you guys are saying that. That's interesting. I'm kind of like, what's kind of cool about this one today, guys, is like very rarely do I get to see like what specials that they're putting out for some of the bigger fights on the betting apps because they usually only happen within like 24, 48 hours of the fights. So some interesting stuff going on there. Under 1.5 knockdowns, minus 135. Over 1.5 knockdowns, even money. Just barely over even money for Ortiz to be knocked down in rounds 1 through 6. Let's see here. There's some other good ones. One interesting one that I thought, based on what you guys were saying in there, was they had a bet in here for both fighters to be knocked down and Ortiz to win at 18-1. I kind of like that one. Because you got to look at that Charles Martin fight. I mean, that's something that you guys haven't talked about yet. Was the Charles Martin fight? Right?
I mentioned it.
Oh yeah, you did. I'm sorry. It's so. I mean, he looked like he didn't look good there. But I mean, then Ruiz got fucked around by a 40-year-old Chris Arreola as well. I mean, who can punch? But he was hitting him at the same range where Ortiz is going to punch from, and he's not as sharp of a puncher as Luis Ortiz is. The old man, he's got something to him, and I think he, like you said, Steve, I think he's got one more in him, but I think it's going to be a bigger one, and I'm going with knockout. I don't know if it's going to be early or late. I tend to think it's going to be at least in the second half of the fight, but I'm taking the old man to win by stoppage.
I think they'll both go down. And in the chat here, Grime9 says Ruiz Jr. by stoppage. And then he goes on to say Ruiz will discombobulate Ortiz. I'd be on. See if Ruiz knocks out Ortiz in good fashion. That's one of his biggest wins. I think even at this stage of Ortiz's career, that's a statement for Ruiz.
It's the second biggest win. I mean, the title win over AJ, you got to say is number one, right? But I think it's got to go right behind it.
Yep.
And at least that opens the door. Like, the best thing for PBC is for Ruiz to win. So if it goes to the cards, remember that. Because nobody wants to really see Ortiz fight Wilder a third time, right? And if
we want to see that Ruiz Wilder fight. That's a great fight, like, but Ruiz has to win well to make that fight look good. Like, if he fucking squeaks past Ortiz, he's going to look like cannon fodder for Wilder.
You might be right.
They all want Ruiz to win, as I mentioned before, because they'll want to set up that Wilder fight. You've got a WBC former champion. Possibly he might be a WBC champion again by that point, Wilder, depending on how the belts fall, against a guy who's held all three of AJ's belts as well, a former unified world champion. It has all the markings of a fight the PBC would want to make, rather than an old man with no leverage going forward, who's never won a world title in Ortiz.
There you go. Man, we are split on this. This is a fight, man. This is a good fight. I was sorry. I was looking back at something there and thinking about how to go into this. We got this question up here, Steve. And while I'm going to how about I go to the guys for this question, and you get ready for our big drawing coming up here.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the Dr. FMG who threw $7.99 in the super chat. Says, what you think about Eddie losing the Buatsi purse bid to Lou DiBella? Is it a gangster move from DiBella, as he doesn't seem to have a dog in the fight?
He has got a dog in the fight. Pascal. He's promoting Pascal, or Pascal's asked for his help at least.
Is Pascal's not involved with the Canadian cat anymore?
I
don't think so, mate, no. Because I was listening to Lou DiBella's interview.
It does say hostile takeover a bit, though, doesn't it? Like, the boys are kind of seizing power here when Eddie's on the ropes. Like, it looks like they're going for the fucking kill here. Like,
they smell weakness, mate. That's was all Uncle Frank, big dog move, dipping his balls into Eddie's business. But again, Eddie just can't win these purse bids, mate. You think a guy with his education and private schooling and all that type of stuff, he'd be able to win a purse bid from time to time, surely, you know? Even Ed.
Rob, were you thinking on? Did you have anything on this? Do you like what DeBella did here? Is Eddie sad on this one?
Well, I think on a rare occasion, even in Ed, I'd have to agree with her. Like, the fight's probably not worth even the first bid that he bid for. Like, Jean Pascal in 2022, fucking 2 L's to Bernard Hopkins fucking 12 years ago, battered to death by Sergey Kovalev, popped for fucking drugs, draws with fucking Badu Jack. Jesus Christ, man! Like, do we need to see fucking Jean Pascal getting bid on with that type of bread in 2022? Something's fucking wrong here. Like, and Buatsi to be even fighting this guy, I don't know. Like, I don't know. They're insisting on VADA testing anyway, Eddie, which the lads have agreed to. So it's all getting a bit Tom Petty and the heartbreakers there between the lads. I'm getting the sense that it's a bit of a hostile takeover from competitors of Eddie now, and I think you're going to see more of that. They've already tried to Aram and Uncle Al are freezing them out successfully in the States, and I think if anyone can contribute to that along the way, they're going to be trying to get rid of him because they don't want him, even Ed, they don't want him in America. They didn't like his shtick. It didn't go down well. Cheeky chappy, apples and pears, and
witty banter juice, all that type of pish.
GQ magazine shit. They didn't go for that in America. Like, went down like a lead balloon, like AJ when he went to America, like a fucking lead balloon, man. So
when
yeah.
AJ, when he went to Saudi Arabia, and seems to happen like that.
Eddie's running fights in Abu Dhabi and all that. I thought I was going to say, Matty, just quickly. Number one, if Eddie had all that money from DAZN, it is daft that he's losing so many purse bids. But at the same time, a lot of the purse bids that he loses, you think to yourself, he's probably glad. He's like, oh God, John Pascal, Buatsi, you might as well try and sell Viagra to a corpse. You know what I mean? He's fucking useless as well. It's just, yeah, Eddie's probably glad he's losing these purse bids as bad as it looks.
I'll tell you, this is. Go ahead, Rob.
No, I had a Jimmy Savile joke. I'm going to leave it.
Go on, Rob, do it. Do it.
Don't dig that up again, Rob.
So I'll tell you what, though, as far as it goes with this fight, I don't think Buatsi could have got a worse person to end up with to get into a mandatory position. I mean, because it's not necessarily that Pascal is like one of the best fighters at 175 pounds anymore. But how do you prepare for Jean Pascal? He's just so tremendously unorthodox, and he can catch you with such odd shots. It's.
I tell you what, I'll tell you exactly how you do it. You keep tipping your cap to him, and you keep making those investments. Shout out R.I.P. Brother Nazim. That's what you do. You tip your cap to him and make those investments to the body, baby.
I think the best way to defeat him is to insist on VADA testing. Matty?
What's that?
Yeah, I said the best way to defeat Pascal is to insist on VADA testing.
Yeah.
He definitely had a resurgence there for a while. We called that early on the pod.
Come back of the year, was it no? Two upset wins and then come back of the year. Fucking hell.
Pascal sure looks great.
He beat the shit out of that Egyptian guy. He beat the shit out of him.
Let's just get to the brass tacks or the main question of this fucking fight. Does it happen?
What does it say about Buatsi as well that he's beating a guy that Carl Froch beat fucking 15 years ago or something? Well, like, you know what I mean?
But what happens if he doesn't take the fight though, mate, or doesn't he win the fight if he does take it?
Then he loses his ranking position.
That's not my point though, mate. You know, but what does Eddie do with him? Because he's meant to be, for the way Lou explained it, was Buatsi hasn't got a contract with Eddie. I think it's mostly with DAZN.
Ed says that he tried to make the yard fight, doesn't he? And Frank is saying, well, why would the fuck would we fight Buatsi? But I would quite like to see that fight, promotional issues aside. I know them two hate each other or whatever. But that's the fight I want to see. Like, I don't want to see Buatsi fighting fucking Pascal or Yard fighting. Who's Yard fighting next?
What sanctioning organization was this for?
IBF.
So they're fighting to fight better BF. What a prize! What a prize! I got to step into this guy.
Buatsi's ranked like something like top 3 with all the bodies. I mean, it doesn't matter which one he wants to go. It's a fucking shooting match of who he's going to fucking face. Paterbe over Bivol, winner against Ramirez. Steve says, get in domestic fights, mate.
It's one where the fans really suffer, isn't it? Because of their standoff there, like particularly with those two, because it's the biggest fight you could make for either of them, and yet the two of them would kind of rather have their fighter lose to Baturbiev because he doesn't lose as much stock as losing to the other guy. That's on a different network. You know what I mean?
Why does Eddie no try his best with B Pally in Panama to try and make Callum Smith against Buatsi a final eliminator or some fucking sort?
Said he might do that, yeah. Said he might do that if they can't make the Pascal fight. It might go Buatsi Smith. Which is not a bad fight. I wouldn't mind that one. But Buatsi had is the one I want to see.
You can imagine the shit that is going to go in here. Like, you know, I could maybe see if this fight does get signed, for example. Remember the shit we had with the Fury White fight, whereas White's rights or image rights hadn't been released up until like the final knock-ins, for example. I could fucking see something like that happening here with this fight. You know, just try to come the cunt basically.
It's fucking daft too, though. That we'll end up in a situation in so many years' time. I know it's happened in boxing since time immemorial. Fighters haven't fought each other, but you get into a point where you say, "Oh, imagine if Buatsi and Yard had fought each other." It's just something that needs settled. It should be a domestic level fight that should be settled. It's like saying, "Oh, Watson, Ben, Eubank. Imagine if they'd never fought each other." Even guys like Catley, Richie Woodall back in the day. You know, Cornelius Carr and all them.
Really
just settle it.
You're making a really good point. Yeah. you're making a really good point, but when you look back like at eras gone by, I think for Roy Jones there's some Eastern European guy that they say maybe ducked or whatever, and then and then there's Leonard, they say Aaron Pryor made a move up or whatever, like, but there's generally like one guy that they say maybe they didn't. These days there's 4 or 5 fights that could have happened.
Exactly.
Sail by, like, it's ridiculous.
Even we could have had Yard against Richards or any of the just sort these things out. I know we didn't have Hatton against Witter, but there seemed to be fewer back then, especially at a domestic level. I think it's unforgivable. You go past the domestic guys not even fighting each other.
The PED issue aside, we've always kind of suspected that maybe Buatsi isn't the biggest light heavyweight, and Pascal was quite a thick-set guy. So again, it'll be interesting to see the size difference between these two if it ever does happen as well. The same goes for the Callum Smith fight if they try and make that one as a fucking backup.
Yeah, it'd be massive. Although I thought Buatsi showed balls against Craig Richards, who's a big old unit, not on that level particularly, but I thought Buatsi showed a lot of bottle in that fight when it seemed like the tide was turning away from him. So he maybe can dig down into the trenches, which makes it even more so we want to see that at world level.
Do you do the same against that Croatian guy, even though it wasn't like...
Kalic. Yeah.
That's the one, Kalic.
Man, I tell you what, 175 pounds is getting really interesting. I'm super looking forward to Bivol against Ramirez, obviously, because I've been saying that I think Ramirez is actually going to win that fight for a while now. And then, obviously, Beterbiev fighting against Yard, whatever it is, what it is. But Callum Smith is looking good at the weight, man. Him against Buatsi, I think, would be an interesting enough fight, but I think he'd ice him, and I think that he'd land something long on Pascal and absolutely just destroy him. That's just the hunch that I get. So, anyways, anything else on that before we move on?
No.
All right. Let's see here. So, we had a whole bunch of people, as well as our Patreons, who have contributed to us in the last month. And we have this wonderful Andy Lee signed boxing glove going to one of them. Steve is going to the random name generator to find out who that person is.
Yes, indeed. Sad bastard that I am, Matty. I've put all the names from everyone we have in the Patreon, all the names from everyone who's left a super chat over the last 5 weeks in total, and added them to this Wheel of Fortune random generator, which has been cut down to these tiny little slices. There's about 150 altogether. So we're going to do the random name generator. So what we shall do is here, I'll have it spinning around on my screen. I'm not going to bother sharing the screen. And whenever... Matty, whenever you say when or whatever you want to say, I will stop the generator and pick out a name to win this fine Andy Lee glove, and then I'll contact you as best as I can, or you contact me. And if I haven't heard from you by this time next week, we'll do another generator and we'll carry on from there. So you say when, Matty, and I will stop the name generator. We'll start it now.
Stop.
And the winner is, it's Patreon in brackets, so it's someone on the Patreon. It's Craig Jevons. Craig Jevons has won the Andy Lee signed glove. Congratulations to you, Craig. Well done. That was signed by Andy Lee back in the Dockers Club in about 2009, I think it was. Cormac Campbell ran a little raffle at an evening with Neil Sinclair, and he had the glove from his friend Andy Lee, friend of the pod, friend of Rob's as well. So the Andy Lee signed glove will go to Craig Jevons. I'll get in touch with you during the week, Craig. If not, we'll roll it over. But Craig, you are the winner, so congratulations.
Fingers crossed that he lives close so shipping isn't ridiculous.
Yeah, I hope he's not one of our Australian listeners. Might have to get the generator dusted off again.
I can remember getting gear through America. I actually having to pay fucking import tax to black in. I'm like, yeah, cunts.
Yeah, I hate that. Fucking order something from the States.
I know.
And I have to pay for it, and then they want more money at the door. Piss off, will you?
I know.
Fucking hell,
Like...
think I am. Reminds me of a fucking joke, actually. Made of me dad's dodgy geezer from Waterford there. Like, he used to have a lot of Ralph Lauren polo stuff, but it wasn't out of the shop, if you know what I mean. He used to come up with a trunk of it. Like, but he said his ma used to tell a joke. The fucking landlord knocked on the door. He's like, what do you want? He's like, I'm here looking for the rent, Mrs. Kennedy. And she's like, well, come on in, the two of us will have a look for it.
There we are, jokes and all. Well done, Jevo. So back to you.
I don't know why we're not on iTunes.
Yeah. We usually have them jokes after the pod.
Mrs. Kennedy's made up name, by the way. This is an example.
So we have all this to look forward to, including some stuff coming up very soon. Andy, do you know what we're going to be previewing next Sunday?
I don't know, mate. What?
The trilogy. Canelo versus
Triple
Triple
G3. Aye, 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away.
All $85 pay-per-view of it.
Aye, for you. Ken, something. I'm not even going to stay up for this one, to be fair, actually. Could be top round, but again, depends on how I'm feeling. I've been feeling like fucking shit all week, so hopefully I'm feeling better next week.
I almost feel like...
I feel like shit yesterday, all the same.
Well, I tell you what, it didn't help me anyway, I put it that way.
Well, so we do have stuff going on, and the boxing schedule is getting hotter and hotter. Hopefully all this stuff kind of stays together. Fights have been hit or miss for getting canceled. But given all that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Wellings for the value of the week.
Thank you very much, Matthew. I'm considering now, about the old stay up. The last one I stayed up for was Billy Joe Saunders against Canelo, actually. And inadvertently stayed up for Ruiz against Chris Arreola. That was because I couldn't get to sleep. I don't know, Matty.
Saunders one was worth it, Steve.
It was, yeah.
Phoned you to wake you up.
Yeah.
Make sure of it.
You
might stay up for this, Might stay up for this.
Didn't you start a new job about a month ago, Steve? So it might be a little early to call in.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I'm too old. I'm worried about Andy staying up, man. This might fucking kill him off.
What, for the night?
Yeah.
Watch that shit, mate. You fucking kidding me? I need to be up at 7:30 with the kids, man. Fucking school run, nursery run, and I've got to be on the fucking site by fucking 9 o'clock.
Yeah, no. We got a holiday tomorrow, so I literally got to do nothing.
Rub it in.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do.
I can see a sit line getting donated into the gaffer in the next couple of weeks, like, to be fair.
I'll Quaalude you and I'll really rub it in. Bill Cosby, bitch.
Yeah,
not a Quaalude, you love me again tomorrow, man.
No, hopefully Andy gets better soon, obviously. Just in time for Belly of the Week, episode 490. Andy's here, just about, hanging on by a thread. Matty's here as well. So is rapping Rob Kelly. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and shout out to iTunes. Fuck iTunes, unless it's an honest mistake. And in that case, we love you still, iTunes. There's Mao Zedong, Chairman Mao himself, in the chat, just to lead us into the Belly of the Week. We haven't heard this one in a while. It's an oldie, but a goodie. It's time to dust off bunts.
I tell you what, I was just going to point out, you've been nominated for become the British Ambassador of Fighting Sports, and we might as well take today just to remind everyone we're getting closer. We've been nominated for a big award this year.
Come on, son. Where's the graphic? Where's that graphic when I need it? There we go. Who's the odd man out? Is it me, or the true Paris Hilton, or that woman at the top? Looks like a wig stuck on Jade Goody's head. There was it at the end when she was having
the treatment. You can't make any jokes about it.
No, it's not a joke. I'm just saying, I wonder if that was a wig stuck on at the end. I don't like it. That doesn't suit her. And then the woman who's next to me on my right, the screen's left, I don't even know who she is.
Miranda Cosgrove. She is iCarly of Nickelodeon fame.
Well, she may be iCarly. Anyway, the four of us are up for an award, Broadcast News Award, on June 18th. At the Hilton Hotel in central London. Tickets are £275. Are
you buying mine?
No, I'm not buying yours. So we're going along to that. And the Jade show, actually, which was the last few weeks of her life, I've got to be honest with you, and I'm not joking, I'm not saying it was on Living, a channel I didn't even know existed. It was quite good, I've got to be honest with you. It was because it was suddenly, there was no hype. It was just this woman slowly dying in front of the cameras, which I found quite entertaining, and it was very good because she was dead and it was honest, it was truthful. As for that Paris Hilton thing, I swear, Andy, if we lose out, I'll tell you what, if Jade loses out to Paris Hilton and we lose out to Paris Hilton, I'll be sick as a parrot. And Carly can come again, man. Jade can't. You know what I'm saying?
I've completely lost any track of what you're saying.
Yeah, I have as well.
I will add that I thought the Jade program was fantastic, but for a completely different reason. I thought it was very heart-rendering stuff. But
it was heart-rendering
plenty
stuff.
still to come here on the Boxing Hours. We hope to speak to promoter Callie Simon.
Imagine doing that today, man. He'd have been played if he'd have done that today. Imagine, oh my God.
Oh, he'd be cancelled, mate.
Is he fucking loaded there?
Cancel culture warriors would be fucking all about him.
He's fucking still on iTunes as well, and we're not.
I tell you what, he has some controversial opinions for a fella who's so fucking sensitive.
I know. Adios.
He found it quite entertaining.
Because it was real, it was truthful. Someone was dying in front of your fucking face. What a wanker. He found it quite entertaining. I found it quite entertaining, actually.
On the channel, living. Oh, what a Buatsi class. I'm going to keep that one for time immemorial. Let's move on to the Belly of the Weeks then. What we've been sent in here, quite a few. Not Ronnie Hussein. Sorry, Ronnie, almost nominated you for Belly of the Week then. Pete S has nominated Callie Sowerland. Fuck off, give Joshua a fucking back. Look at him. He's wired to the moon, isn't he?
Look at that. Look at the vein inside his head. They're popping out, man.
He's got a Michael Van Gerwen t-shirt on.
You just seen a big, massive, fat bing of ching over the fucking far side of the room there. I need you getting about that.
Oh, Callie. Take aims threw this in last week. This was on YouTuber Boxing. This guy's called Sam Hyde.
Who did the wee sprinkles to fucking get the
That was me to cover up the zone because we got done for I'm on the ball now.
Mate, you fucked up though. Look at the ropes.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Quick, there we are.
There's a lot going on in that picture there, Steve.
Bench long.
I thought it also could have been for the upcoming Hasim Rahman Jr. versus Vitor Belfort fight.
Oh, well, yeah, you could nominate it for that. But listen, Ames sent that in because he had interviewed this Sam Hyde. Is this what boxing's coming to? This is what Hyde had to say for himself ahead of the big show when he was talking to Ames.
You mentioned that you've got a lot of voices in your head leading up to this one. What have they been telling you?
Was that Klingon or something from fucking Tolkien's universe?
Nah, mate, that's fucking anthrax he's been injecting or something.
I don't know, but
that's like MK Ultra type stuff, man. He's talking going on there.
He's got to be on some good toot.
Or MTK Ultra, man. Fucking hell, man.
Beats the shit out of the IFL videos anyway, I'll tell you that much.
Fuck's sake.
Oh my God.
Was he speaking like Yiddish or fucking Flemish or fucking...
He's supposed to be a comedian apparently, but I mean, you know.
Well, who told him that, like?
I don't know.
Well, there's levels.
Hi.
I thought he was doing an impression of Andrade, doing an impression of DMX.
They say boxing's a difficult sport to get into, boys.
to be honest, I thought there was some sort of spell for Lord of the Rings that they were trying to fucking give him there, you know. He looked like some fucking bang. Look at the shades, man. It looks like Harry Potter as well with the fucking glasses on the silly cunt.
Anyway, nomination for Sam Hyde. Michael Shusey has nominated Rick Glazer. Rick tweeted out, "My lovely wife likes boxing and is puzzled by the social media criticism of Bob Arum. Sonia said, Arum started at the top in 1966, puts on very good fights at the top for all those years, and is still going strong at 90. What's the critics' issues?" I replied, "I really don't know." I'm going to bet, Matty, that this conversation between Rick and Sonia never happened.
That's probably a very good assessment, Steve.
I see Lou DiBella was giving him shit during the week as well for some of his racism shit.
Oh, the Chinese thing?
Yeah, that was the one.
What?
Yeah, you'll check Lou DiBella's page, mate.
I hate Twitter so much. I don't want to.
I might have it saved. I might not. Who knows? Gary Kavanagh was one of many people to nominate this one. Dominic Henry and a few others threw it in as well. Amir Khan asked who would have won if he fought Floyd Mayweather in their primes. Amir said, "I'd beat him. Honestly, I'd beat Mayweather. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but you have to believe in yourself. It would have been like chess, but I would have outboxed him.
Fuck me, man. It's like I throw back to 5 years ago when he was calling at Mayweather every week, the fucking month, man.
Imagine the two of them playing chess, by the way.
Can you imagine the two playing Countdown? Fucking Jesus Christ.
It would have been entertaining, but man, he would have ended up being one of Floyd's very few knockout victims at 147. Man, it's all about timing with him, and Jesus fuck.
We would definitely find out how good Floyd's math skills is anyway with Countdown. Get him on there, see how fucking good it is.
Good old Floyd. Well, I'm not sure about his math skills, but he's definitely be back on the ad train again. Let's see what Floyd's advertising this week.
The money man is back. The money man is back. The money man is back. I'm here to talk to the world about this new publicly traded company, Global Woman Solutions, GWSO. This new battery technology that drops this September. And guess what? They got some of the best scientists working on this project from around the world. I need you guys to check it out this September. You're hearing it from the one and only Floyd Money Mayweather.
Global warming solutions.
What did he do?
If it's a penny stock, I might get in for $50 and sell it in 3 days after it goes up. And yeah,
I mean, if they've got a snow machine that fucking is going to like refreeze the Arctic, for example,
Well, if it's got fucking top scientists working on it from around the globe, what more do you want? I'm fucking me in anyway.
So what the fuck's Floyd? What's Floyd doing in it then? If he's got all the best scientists working on it, what's fucking Floyd got to do with it? Fucking muppet.
Here, Rob, do you not see his chain? It's like a little shamrock thing or something.
Irish Clover blokes it
It's
there.
a Celtic chain, I think, Steve. I think it was a Celtic chain from yesterday.
You would think he would get fucking green emeralds putting it in with his fucking cash,
50-0 and 4-0, baby.
Why doesn't he just give the chain to Logan Paul and consider it settled?
Jota on the way. Let it go.
He's a good lad, is Floyd. What's happening on DAZN, says Caposa.
The fuck is that?
They had a guy who did a traditional tribal dance, but I can't remember the tribe's name from that area of Mexico. It was very interesting, and that it's like a deer and on his head there, and it was interesting. It was quite the interesting dance, followed by a rousing performance of the Mexican national anthem. Yeah, fun for all ages.
No idea. Yeah, Matty, there's one for you.
Tyson sitting
on the crowd with a fucking rifle, eh?
Tyson sitting ringside after fucking smoking DMT, just sitting there normal. Fucking.
Oh, did you see him at the tennis? I was like, I wish I was sitting with Tyson right now, man. Give me some of the fucking mushies you've got there, mate. Fucking hell. He looked like he was properly baked to his tree.
He was, man. He was Rick Glazed, wasn't he? All over the place. He was like reaching out in front of himself. Augmented reality.
I gotta say though, Steve, I mean,
Yes.
it wouldn't be bad to be part of a tribe that has that as traditional head garb. I mean, couldn't you see yourself with the lads walking around with that on your noggin?
Well, not
dancing
for long.
around
To a lamppost, I'd say.
Well, the covering the eyes what was that? Bird Box? What was the fuck was that movie? No, I don't know. Well, whatever that one with Sandra Bullock was, where they couldn't look or the shit would kill them.
Yeah, it was like Birdcage or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. It's very interesting though. It's colorful. Deer are beautiful creatures. You could use the antlers of the deer to gorge out the eyes of your enemy. There's
Bernie's
there's a
hair
lot going
clinic will be
on
onto
here.
a winner if they see it.
I was thinking Neil Buchanan in Heart Attack coming up with something like that. Oh my god!
Remember all them shows? You go out to your man, you'd be like squeezing out the fucking fairy liquid and see like, "What are you playing at? I'm making a fucking rocket ship." Are you fucking like that bottle? And he's just, what's wrong with you? Get made of money.
Oh dear me! Yeah,
Did you
some
see
crap.
David Diamani's comb over of his fucking hair?
Oh, that looked terrible, didn't it? That I know we're baldies on the pod, but my god,
It was fucking odd, man. He not a member of the Fantastic Hair Club, Steve.
no, absolutely. Nobody has been nominated by the Motor City Cobra. He says, so Tyson Fury bangs on about his waist like it's some huge asset. He's hardly in shape. While Ruiz comes in just as heavy, and it's a bad thing. Hypocrites Ruiz going to destroy the old man. So prediction there from Mr. Nobody.
Yeah, you hypocrites out there who are fucking fat shaming Tyson Fury or fat shaming Andy Ruiz while bigging up types of hypocrites, all nobody.
It's
who
because
fucking
he's
said that.
fat and Mexican, Rob. You know it and I know it.
Taco Tuesday, as Leo Braun would say.
Taco Tuesday. Matthew Butters, who was in the chat earlier, has nominated this one. No wonder Tommy Fury pulled out to the Jake Paul fight. The man can't even do a job on a middle-aged man while coked up.
I've never seen the video.
Tommy's been in.
What happened with this? I never really saw the video.
I couldn't really see too much, to be honest.
He threw a few kind of hold me back shots from behind his friend, like, hey, don't let me in there. Kind of threw a few punches of fresh air.
Oh, like hold me back type shit.
He definitely did. Yeah, he definitely didn't rock the old guy anyway, so there's maybe question marks about his power at that weight. I don't know. It could have been a catch weight because it was a street fight. So the things I do for the pod, by the way, it's absolutely pissing down. I'm standing underneath the fucking tree, dancing around the Jota on the wing. Fucking hell.
It's Robbie's out there.
You should tell your wife that you only help her with her boxing if she lets you do the podcast inside, leaves you in peace.
Yeah, let's get Rob inside.
Fuck. Don't blame us because you don't have testicles in your relationship, sir.
No, yeah, it's just that I have a heart like my missus after doing a 12-hour shift. She don't want me standing around the sitting room talking about fucking Zerdo Ramirez and all. You know what I mean? Waking her up.
Or listening to Alicia Baumgardner, what her fucking vital measurements are, really.
Oh, good old Rob. Here, Andy, you mentioned this one earlier. There's Rick Glazer being nominated, being glazed by Lou DiBella. Rick tweeted out, remember this tweet? A local Chinese food delivery spot just called me and said in broken English, you no order lately, you all right? I replied, fuck you and Chinese food. Yes, I continue to penalise anything associated with World China for lying to the world about coronavirus. But that was off the back of his first tweet. He said, because of the coronavirus, my wife and I will not be eating any Chinese food until this epidemic is straightened out. It's not the fear, but we all need to penalise the Chinese everywhere for this worldwide outbreak. Everyone should follow this. Please retweet.
What the fuck?
I tell you what, man, it's a wee bit like the Americans doing the Japanese during World War II, put them on internment camps, all that type of stuff.
It was fucked
Is that
up.
what he's wanting?
Yeah, it was fucked up. It was totally fucked up.
Oh, I fucking love
I've known a few people who were in the internment camps and their children and shit. It's really fucked up.
Yeah. It's all banter. It's only banter.
I'm sitting here like trying to think. I don't know how to turn that comment into a value.
Welcome back to the value of the week.
Yeah, Camp Amachi is like 2 hours from my house. It's like, yeah.
Brian King nominating Joe Markovsky. He's a CEO, you know. Looks like he's been sleeping in a bus shelter, this fella. We're very comfortable with our dear old AJ, apparently, Andy.
He did. They look very comfortable, I can tell you.
Very
that,
comfortable
man.
as him lying in that shelter.
Fucking Jesus, man. He always like he's a homeless bum. Somebody needs to introduce him to a razor, by the way, but he better know, because he might end up slashing his wrist when he sees the fucking financial losses that they've got over there, you know.
Cuts his throat like your man on the Twitter.
Oh, fuck, aye. No, pedo.
Floyd. Oh, we already played Floyd, didn't we? Yeah, so he was introducing GWCO batteries, publicly traded company. Yeah, you got a good background in that. Ben Russell, Simon Jordan going in on the guard. He called the guard a hired professional mouth, as opposed to a Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen lookalike gone wrong. Some boxing sky get twisted if you dare observe in their space. I do have empathy, just not feigned, dialed-up, sycophantic versions of it in order to not burn bridges. Maybe burn ebony bridges. That was quite the rant from Simon.
Yeah, as I say, I think someone even tagged Simon Jordan into the Gad's comment about Ebony Bridges being the female version of Muhammad Ali. Yeah, once the guy starts dropping that shit, man, I think Simon Jordan can say whatever the fuck he likes about his colleagues, at least. I think, because the guy works for TalkSport as well, doesn't he?
He does indeed. Well, he does bits and pieces. He'll work for anybody, Will the Gad, but he's been photoshopped or whatever by the chief, Macho Grande, who's been on the pod many times. I'm sure he won't mind me cutting this on his behalf. So Macho Grande made this. This is the Gad and Ebbs to celebrate Simon Jordan's tweet there. Let's have a listen to this.
I mainly got that one, honestly, for art. But then I've got the Phoenix. I've got to show you this, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm sure no one will mind.
So that's a Phoenix.
Yes, I can see the Phoenix, yeah.
Yep. And that.
Absolutely brilliant. I was actually showing the missus that the other day, like, because I was saying, like, listen, if you're a fucking serious fighter, like, you're gonna might have to get your ass out on Instagram and let the Gad look fucking ugly on Zoom. Like, she's like, what?
Oh no!
Like, listen, you have to be prepared to go to the fucking depths of hell, baby. We need this title.
Rob wants to become a kept man. That's his fucking problem. I love it. That's what it's all about. It's all about equal rights these days. How the fuck should we keep the woman? They should be keeping us for a change. You know?
We might have to break the internet here. You know what I mean?
I'm not going to say it, man. I'm not going to say it. I was going to take it to the depth of debauchery there, but I'm not going to bother, man.
Do
Fucking
you ever
hell.
get the feeling that Gad is like planning to start a Black Sabbath cover band?
Oh, he might do. I don't know. That's the least of your worries, I'd say, with the Gad. To be honest.
Rob, your missus got any leg tattoos?
No
So
visible ones.
She can't show that then.
Does she have a phoenix?
No phoenixes, mate.
Is she got any covered up piercings or anything like that she could show off?
No, none of that. No,
None of that.
No. We're going a bit too far now. Are we known? It's funny when I said it.
Oh dear.
We all know that Irish people have that one fucking tattoo, that fucking fake crucifix around their neck. Like all of them fucking have it. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, get some imagination. There's so many more things you can do with Jesus.
I was about to be outraged until I remembered my fucking cross tattoo and my fucking Virgin Mary one. I was like, oh.
Bringing the stereotypes on a Sunday evening. Talking of imagination, here we are. And the new ICB World Cruiserweight Champion. This is KSI, the new ICB World Cruiserweight Champion. There's one for you from Argos, boys. Get stuck in there with Influencer Championship Boxing. So there's a title for that.
I didn't know that the international cunts had got into boxing.
They've got it in all right. And they're here to stay. Ian Chalice nominated Ruguru, Regis Prograis. He tweeted out a heartfelt tweet. When I was a teenager, me and my friends would drive around on the weekends looking for people on the street to beat up and take whatever they had. Looking back on it, I'm surprised I'm still alive. That was the dumbest shit ever. I was young and dumb. Thank God nothing bad ever happened. To you.
You're not the one that was ended up fucking broken, bleeding, having to fucking struggle their way to the hospital.
Oh my God.
That's a bad one, isn't it?
Zero self-awareness here, eh?
Yeah, my friend almost got bit by an alligator when we had to dump this car in a swamp, but nothing bad happened.
Oh my God, that's a good one. Yeah, thank God nothing bad happened. The people you fucking beat up and robbed, Regis. Not worry about them.
That's like Adrian Broner getting all sympathetic towards pensioners all of a sudden.
Exactly.
Well, Rob, if pensioners aren't getting a decent check, then how the hell is Adrian Broner supposed to get anything after he robs them on the street?
Especially at the end of the day, mate.
Broner on the Golden Girls, that would have been some cameo, wouldn't
it? You know and I know that B. Arthur would have beat the shit out of Adrian Broner. There's no two ways about it.
Who was the cock hungry one on the Golden Girls again?
Blanche.
Rob,
you and I need to get a life, dude.
Yeah. Fuck off, Golden Girls were the greatest shit of all time. Fuck that.
Shout out to our younger listeners.
Sicily, 1922.
Talking about Art Attack and the fucking Golden Girls. Tonight. We're lit. No cap, bro.
The Boomer Asylum. Oh, dear me. Anyway, moving on. Joe Kennedy has nominated this one. There's Keith. Keith is saying about he's being the undefeated. He doesn't want to lose his undefeated record, apparently. He must have got hit so hard by Pacquiao that he forgot that he lost. I don't know what to do with Keith these days. He's going absolutely bonkers. He's cut the hair off. He's losing the plot. We shall move on. Here's one from you, actually, Andy. You've nominated here Uncle Frank bringing the artillery against Eduardo. His boxing predictions about as good as hemorrhoids would be for Frankie Dettori.
Uncle Frank laying it in there, because I forget all the fights that Eddie, well, obviously the Fury against Wilder 3 times. There'll be a few others in there I forget at this point. But Big Frank's having a wee resurgence at this point, getting his pecker up, looking quite sprightly. So fair play to Uncle Frank, who's bringing that heavy artillery that Eddie and DAZN said they were going to be bringing, but I failed to do so. So
I was worried that he was talking about me for a moment.
Might be you next, Martin. Might be you next.
Bitch.
Jason Chukwu is floated in here. He said, "Is Porky all right? I saw a recent video and he's lost bare weight." Chukwu then said, "I can only type. I can't listen in because of my shift at Milk Float. I almost lost my keys."
Chukwu.
What the fuck is
Chukwu's always Captain Current Affairs, isn't he? He's always really on the cutting edge. Porky's lost weight, man. Like,
Is Milk Float the fuck?
Jesus Christ.
Is Milk Float the bar from Clockwork Orange where they used to go to fucking get fucked up on acid?
I don't know. A few hours he'll be working on a milk float, I think. I don't know what's wrong with Tuck-Q these days.
Chuck Woo, explain to me what milk float is. Float
the man,
is
Chuck
in
Woo.
the chat. I want to know what milk float is.
It's all in the eyes, Chuck Woo. It's all in the eyes.
All in the eyes. Joe Weller, really enjoyed myself at last night's sold-out event, he tweeted out. Callie Sowerland wasn't too happy at being outed at those empty seats. He says, I was polite to you last night. Behave yourself. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. This is big boys territory. On the roids. He's going to get battered. James Becker nominated him for that one. Andy, you threw this in. What the hell's going on here? Shannon Courtney on one of these military shows or something?
Well, mate, I've got an observation to make here, right, about women and eyebrows, right? Why do women pencil on eyebrows after shaving them off? They literally just had fucking eyebrows. So why did they fucking do it? Why? I don't get it.
This is a chicken and egg question you're bringing to the fore here, Andy.
Fuck me. Literally, you just had eyebrows. You just fucking, then you go and paint them back on. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
Maybe
My
she
mom
just-
used to do it. I'm like, you fucking idiot.
Maybe she just wants to look surly no matter the circumstances.
It's just putrid look.
There's Shannon.
But I seen the video actually with the bag getting pulled off her face. I was saying to Ozzy there on the QT, he says, Ozzy, I'd be putting the fucking bag back on her.
Oh, she's had it rough, poor Shannon.
Maybe you could get creative with it and just look really surprised all the time.
Yeah, it's called being caught in a house fire, Rob.
For fuck's sake. Poor Shannon.
It's a
Matty.
quote-
We're out in the shed now. We might have our own house fire.
Look at Jim Jeffries had this great line. Sorry, Steve. He said he's like I don't like the term burnt beyond recognition. Have you ever seen a burn victim? Most recognizable person in the room. The term should be burnt to recognition.
Fucking hell.
Fucking love
That's
Jim.
Spotify gone
Love
as well.
Less than 10
Yeah, the
seconds.
AI
fair
bots are
use.
going to have a fucking field day on us, aren't they? Fuck, bots. Whatever way you look at it. 18 stone, I'm heavy.
Babyface assassin, says Johnny Nelson. Oh dear. Matty, did you throw this one in?
I sure did.
What's going on there?
Yeah, so that was from the DAZN card. That was Rocky Hernandez holding his near infant child. And if you look in his right hand, he brought the recent pregnancy test that he's going to be a father again with him to the show. So
Well, that's
for
a
the world
relief.
to
I thought
see-
he was fucking checking the temperature.
What do you say? Look at the teeth, man. Look at the teeth. You can fucking grate cheese through the teeth, man. Fucking hell.
Poor Rocky.
What the fuck? So what was that all about? The Matty wanted to prove to everyone that his wife was pregnant or something.
Yeah, he just wanted to announce to the world that he knocked off his old lady again.
Right,
So,
next to the ball,
fair
he's
play
done
to
the
Rocky
damage again.
Hernandez.
But he's an amateur though, mate. He's an amateur. He's got a kid there about 18 months old there, by the looks of it. He's got another one in the oven. He's going to get no fucking sleep.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
I'd say she's younger
Yeah.
than 18 months.
Yeah, no, spread them out so that you're raising children for a quarter century consecutively. That's a great fucking idea.
We'll have some money saved up though.
Well done to him, I say. Well done to him. Final one I have here is Eddie loves a bit of a spin, and he's putting a positive spin on AJ's meltdown.
Now, he hasn't fallen off a cliff. I feel like actually the meltdown, if that's what you want to call it, was good for him, because I think it got a lot out of the system rather than just holding it in. You know, and that's a message as well to people who are struggling or have going through an emotional time or are under pressure. You've got to let it out. You've got to talk to people. And if you do, you'll feel a million times better. Now, that wasn't AJ in the room telling someone. That was AJ in front of the world telling people. And I feel off the back of that, the messages that he's had of support have been massively encouraging to him. Of people saying, wow, like, you know, I'm struggling too, and you just imploded in front of the whole world. So if you can do it, I can do it. If I can come back from it, you can. And I
Lies.
Oh, God, Eddie.
Fucking lies.
I have an odd position I'm going to take on how someone should react post-fight. You know, if you just raked in tens of millions of dollars, I tend to believe you should be generally indifferent. maybe even passive about the result.
Well, yeah. I
Well,
suppose.
well, there's that, right? And the fact that that's terrible advice, right? So he's, obviously it's not terrible advice to seek help if you're in trouble. We are advocates on that. And as much as we joke on here, we do get messages from people to say that we help them with the pod or the pod helps them, and we're glad to be part of that. So that's a fact, guaranteed fact.
AJ should just listen to the pod, Rob.
Yeah, exactly. Where the fuck was I going with that? I can't remember now.
Back in the house now.
Mental illness and acting like a twat.
Oh no, Eddie. Yeah. I think like he's giving like bad advice there because he's telling people to seek help, like whenever they like on a public stage. Like you can't just go around like that. Like picture your fucking best. You're the best man at your best mate's wedding. Like, and everyone's like, "Well, stop asking me why am I sweating after the dinner? I'm heavy. I'm 18 stone." You can't go on like that in public. Like you gotta fucking be gracious. Take your fucking. Do you know what I mean? Take your moments when they come.
The thing is, though, Rob. The thing is, what was if he's needing help or whatever it is, what was he asking for actually? What was the help that he needed? Because from what I was seeing, it was a rant about Ukraine being at war, Lomachenko fighting Salido twice that it never happened, and fucking some other stuff.
I think that was his. I said that off air last week. I think that was his victory speech that he had planned, and he just came back and said it anyway because there was a lot of stuff about himself in there, like that fucking made no sense in the context of fucking getting beat. So, he's not throwing punches like Rocky Marciano. You know what I mean? I don't know what the fuck. But Eddie, speaking of Burns, quote the great fucking what's his name? Pete Burns. You spin me right round, Eddie, right round. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. You're not going to spin doctor that shit, man. Get the fuck out of here. It's not a fucking public mental health cry from AJ. It was fucking, he spat the dummy out, and he's a big PR robot who had a malfunction. And he said in his interview, people were saying, "Oh, nobody had the balls." Yeah, we were saying it. We were saying nobody had the balls to grab the mic because nobody did have the balls to fucking grab the mic off him. He's saying you're going to roll around with him then. But what does that say about him? What does that say about him? And what does that say about what all your relationship with him is? And as well as that, if they're looking for a warm-up for Dillian White, there's more I fucking played there, let me tell you. And that story of AJ is going to repeat itself down the road on his career. And I don't take any great joy from that. But you watch, if they need a warm-up fight for Dillian White, who just come off and knock out the fucking Tyson Fury, they need a warm-up fight for him. Give me a break. He's in trouble. Even at
but the thing is, though, as well, I mean, if in one verse you're saying, it was good to get it out. He needs help, or it's good to talk. But then he's saying, like, in the same breath, well, he needs to be active, he needs to be fighting, he needs to be back out in December. I need that payday. I need to get the zone subscribers happy. I need to get them on base. Fuck me, man.
Thing is, as well, though, Andy, we've had the discussion, and I've heard it on other podcasts as well, about AJ. Oh, why didn't somebody save him? Why didn't someone pull the mic off him? I was thinking about that, though. Can you imagine if someone had tried to pull the mic off in the middle of that? That would have ended up as absolute fucking carnage, man.
Well, look at me. He says something to you. Well, I think when Ukrainians mentioned something to him when he threw the fucking belts away, then he gets out the ring.
Exactly, that's being brushed under the carpet. He's talking about is the sanctioning fees. Shut the fuck up about the sanctioning fees. You use the sanctioning bodies to make AJ what he was. You fucking paid the sanctioning fees. Get the fuck out of here with that. Can't blame that system.
Overpaid the god of among men, Charles Martin, for the IBF crown. You fucking when Tyson Fury fucking fell out of the sport for his drug related issues and his whatever with mental health and that as well, he's all fucking vultured. He was all in there. You all want your fucking dibs. You all want your title shots. You all want your fucking cash. You saw your opportunity. So then he use this fucking pish that he's lost faith in the fucking system. The same system that you use to this day to abuse to get your fucking fighters title shots and the eliminators and all this other fucking pish that goes on in the background as well. I think we're fucking stupid.
And as well as that, it's hard to buy these impassioned pleas for caring about AJ when he's posting pictures of himself crying on Twitter. It doesn't seem very fucking genuine that he's genuinely struggling. If he's going to take a look at the picture of himself crying in a press conference and then put some catchphrase to go along with it, just get the fuck out of here with that. And if he is as fragile as they say, this is the biggest Colonel Parker and Elvis move you've ever seen played out right in front of your eyes on IFL TV, because as Andy says, he wants him active. This is like fucking Colonel Parker sending Elvis to fucking Vegas with a fat gut and a corset. He's going to get exposed, and they don't want it to happen straight away. That's why they need a warm-up fucking fight for Dillian White, because they know what the crack is, and they need this guy out making money for him fighting nobodies on the road.
What would have been more embarrassing, though? Let them continue doing that, or let them continue speaking, or someone actually physically trying to grab the mic off him and the shit it's going to cause. What would be more embarrassing, man?
That would have been terrible.
That would have been worse, man, because
I think so.
Fuck me.
Yeah, I can see why nobody did that. It would have been good banter, though.
No, I'm sorry. I have to disagree with you. If things are right in the camp, You're telling me fucking Storm and Norman or someone doesn't go and grab the mic, or fucking or Manny Stewart couldn't grab the mic off somebody, one of their fighters acting fucking bollocks like that? Garcia should have been able to go and take the mic off him. But anyway,
I think he would have smacked him, to be honest, if someone would have tried that. But
I think a lot of his
going to
team
smack
was
his
already
dad,
in the
wasn't he?
locker room.
Ringside,
yeah,
so maybe,
exactly.
like,
Yeah. Right. Good luck to AJ. Right. Andy, any nominations from you?
Yeah, I got a couple, mate. One for Tyson Fury. Obviously, he made an appearance there last night in WWE. It was a bit awkward there, actually, to be honest with you. After the main event, there was some sort of singing going on. I don't think that one of the wrestlers was really that in tune with it. I don't think he was really expecting it. But anyways, he's grown in this fucking tirade, the new man. Obviously, Fury he's like the weather, he changes every fucking 5 minutes. But he's went from like retired to no amount of money will tempt him back to fighting. He'll no fight for any less than £500,000 or £500 million, whatever it was. Sorry, he wants to fight in December. He's a fucking middleweight. It's like, does he not listen to him sometimes with some of the shit? I know he's trying to play a kind of heel kind of character here, but fuck me, man, you're kind of goes bipolar, all this fucking shit that you're coming out with. One for Eddie again, make that Dillian White offer. White offer for Deontay Wilder. So we're back to making offers to Deontay Wilder now. So I think we know we're going to be getting answers off that one. One for Q Better, actually, for coming out with a quality comment to Dan Raphael on this Joshua Buatsi situation. So a massive result for Joshua Buatsi, not only getting more than his promoter of 6 years was paying him, but also getting the exposure of BT Sport as opposed to an app. A great night in the Buatsi household. So I like that one. And another one for Lou DiBella digging out Rick Glazer. Rick Glazer has said, I think, what was he? I forget what Rick was going on about.
That's the Chinese one, isn't it? I think.
No, this was something else, mate. This is related to the Buatsi Pascal fight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he slagged off DiBella, didn't he? Saying that
I think that's what it was.
Is that rat involved or something like that?
So DiBella come back with this one front. That's what it was. He was calling DiBella a front for Al Heyman, I think, or PBC. So DiBella's come back with front my ass, you piece of shit. Who exactly are you again? Is this even your real account, or is it one of your many parody accounts that mock and laugh at the malignant, racist, odometer rolling fraud that you are? Those who know, you fucking fool. So, Uncle Lou's no sitting back and fucking taking it. He's just fucking dishing it. So one for Uncle Lou there, mate, for giving Rick Glazer the heat.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff indeed. Matty, any nominations from you apart from Mr. Hernandez?
That's what I had.
That's all he's got. All she wrote. Rob, anything from you, please?
No, but I wonder, will Rick Glazer start boycotting the Italians when he realised it was Fauci? That was really fucking really kind of off.
Very good, very good. Okay, let's have a quick rundown of them then, and we shall make our picks. We had that clown first of all, Sam Hyde. We had Rick Glazer, unsurprisingly. We had Amir Khan talking about Mayweather. We had the fella with the funny headdress. We had Tyson Fury. We had AJ under pressure. We had Tommy Fury trying to fight on the streets. We had Rick Glazer again. We had Joe Homeless Markovsky. We had Floyd selling, I don't know what he was selling, something to do with global warming. We had Simon Jordan going in on the guard. We had the influencer boxing championships. We had Regis Prograis, thanking God that he wasn't hurt when beating people up. We had Keith Thurman, Frank going in on Eduardo. We had Joe Weller and Callie Sowerland. We had Shannon Courtney. We had Mr. Hernandez as well. We also had Eddie spinning. We had Macho Grande creating the guard, Floyd's ad, and Sam Hyde as well. So quite a decent week. Not the strongest in the world, but quite a few funny ones. Andy, who you got?
I'm going to go for Rick Glazer, mate, just because he got fucking iced of everybody there, including Lou DiBella. So I'll go for Rick Glazer, mate.
Excellent nomination for Rick there. I'll throw mine in, Matty. I'm going to go for Regis Prograis. Complete lack of self-awareness. Thanking God he never got hurt for going out battering and robbing people. Who are you going for?
I got to go for Mr. Glazer there, Steve. Please, Rick, Asian American is the preferred nomenclature.
2 for Rick, 1 for Regis. Who are you going for, Rob?
I was thinking about Floyd being a strong contender with the fucking the world's most fucking powerful scientist or whatever.
Best scientist, Rob. The best
scientist from around the world working on his project, whatever the fuck he's selling this week. But the program one is brilliant. It's almost like a crack dealer going, "Thank God I made it out. I mean, I can't believe I made it out when I was killing all those people." Fucking hell.
Oh, there you go then. So it's a tie between Vic Glazer going in on the Chinese and Regis Prograis, who, thank God that nobody got hurt when he was out beating people up. So congratulations to you, Rick, and congratulations to you, Regis. You are the joint Belly of the Week winners for episode 490. Quick shout out before we hand back to Matty to beat Bot Boop, Joe Burns and the Dr. FMG for their super chats tonight. And they will be thrown into the pot for next month's draw. I'm not sure what I'll come up with yet. I have a Michael Conlon program floating about somewhere, so maybe we can throw that in. So they're in the pot along with all the Patreon subscribers for next month's draw. Congratulations to Craig Jevons.
I've got some like fucking old like box of monthly shits in the attic I can fucking dig out.
Anything you want to get rid of, Rob? Yep, absolutely. I was going to say, yep, of course. Yep, we'll keep doing this. I think this is quite a good initiative. So Craig Jevons,
some signed Rob Kelly vinyl. That's what the people want.
That's
Steve.
what the people want. That's what the people shall get. Back to you, Matty. Thank you to everybody.
All right, and thank you to everyone that was in the chat today, everybody that was kicked in the super chat. We appreciate each and every one of you. Got a good week ahead. I'm getting ready to watch some boxing here shortly. You folks, I don't know if you're staying up or if you're catching tomorrow, but this should be a really exceptional card with some live underdogs with the PBC. Until next week, I've been your host, Matt DiGianardo, and I'd like to thank Steve Wellings, Rob Kelly, Andy Patterson for joining us this week, and we will see you next time around.
Hip hip.
Hooray! Champ, champ!
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
Go to and move!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumple fucking Stiltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7-year ain't. 7-year ain't. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing, Sam. It's as simple as that.